Hey, hey, Internet. Welcome, folks. I hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome to another episode of Spooky Saturday. Just chatting installment where me and my friends share some scary stories and delightful conversation on Twitch. So whether you're here with us live on Twitch or you're enjoying the VOD at your leisure, either here on YouTube at a later time, I'm just really pumped you're here. Today I'm joined by ArchousGG, my friend Archie. Archie, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, excited to be here. Gonna talk about spooky stuff.
Oh yeah,
I'm
spooky.
we're here into the spooky stuff for sure. So yeah, Archie, you're a before we get into the spooky stuff. So you are a Twitch and TikTok creator, and I know you do a lot of Call of Duty stuff, but also we got you the
Spooky stuff.
spooky games.
Yeah, spooky games. And what's crazy about that is I used to always hate scary spooky games because they scared me. And you guys were just so adamant I had to get that game. So and then
Phasmophobia.
and that made me end up loving the whole genre. So
I was like, no, Archie, it's okay, just do it. And you're like, but I don't really. I'm like, no, it's fine, just do it. I think we're both over at like what 13 or like level 1300 plus at this
yeah,
point.
I have like 374 hours played.
It's a it's a wild time, and I'm just happy. I'm happy that you're here. This is very exciting. Um, I am gonna do a quick little shout out. You guys, if you're not already following Archie, why not?
Yeah.
Do I know how to do a shout out? Let's find out, shall we? Did I do it?
Yeah. It worked.
Boom. Last playing straight. I want to play that game. I haven't.
Wow, has it been that long? I kind of disappeared for a little minute.
Dude, I hear you. Like before season 2 opened up, I did the we did the charity stream event, and I think I streamed Minecraft one time after that, and I was like, bet, I'm done. And I took like a 3-week hiatus. Didn't warn anyone. I was just like, okay. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, I
Nice.
know. Hmm?
I was just gonna say I need to stream again. I just having a hard time getting myself to do it.
Well, the good news is that now I can peer pressure you. Um, by pumping you up. Also, be sure to follow Archie on TikTok. Uh, because she does really good game clips and reactions. I just enjoy all your stuff, to be honest with you.
I can't find the bone. Here it is right now. What the?
Ninja, thank you so much for the follow. I'm so excited you're here. Oh, and also Zombie, thank you for resubbing 6 months in a row. You're a real G. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys here. Oh man, this is exciting. So today we're gonna be doing something a little bit specific and spooky. We're gonna be talking about Ed and Lorraine Warren, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of their stuff, and kind of just going over different things. I'm ready to let's get spooked. Let's get scared. Let's debunk stuff. Let's go. I know you said you
All
had
right.
had like some info about how they started.
Yeah. So Lorraine, she realized at around 9 years old that she had um, some psychic medium abilities. She said she was able to see auras around people. She ended up quickly learning that she was clairvoyant, clairsentient, and I'm going to say this wrong, claircognizance. She
Claircognizance. That's the knowing.
cognizance, yes, right. And so it kind of scared her. So she basically ignored it and suppressed it for years until she met her husband Ed, who had been living in a haunted house since like the age of 7. So he doesn't have any abilities, but he has firsthand experienced um, stuff from the spirit world at a young age, and that's kind of when, you know, she was like, I'm gonna reopen my abilities, you know, get back in tune. They both became demonologists because they're very religious, and their first experience that really got them into paranormal investigation was it's called the Oceanborn Mary House. It's up in New Hampshire, and I
New
guess it was
Hampshire.
around the 1950s. Something had happened, and so the tale goes is there's a ghostly carriage that makes its way up a road leading to the house certain times of the year, and they say that an apparition gets out and walks to a nearby well and drops in a package, and then it returns to the coach and then it leaves. And so Ed Ed wanted to see it for himself, so they went up to the house, and they approached the house and they knocked on the door, and they were talking to the man that had owned the house. He invited them in and started talking about his experiences in the house, and that's when Lorraine said she felt like a tremendous jolt in her body, and it was her first time she experienced an out of body experience. And so from that point on, they were kind of hooked on the paranormal.
Hooked on spookins instead of
Hooked on
phonics.
spookins. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about Ed and Lorraine, they're both no longer with us.
Right.
They've deceased. A lot there, but it's you got to remember that these are people who I'm probably going to shamelessly say awful things about. But but like the people involved in these, like these people are people. I'm
Right.
I'd never heard about this one with the well. Firstly, so that's wild that the guy was just like, yeah, come on in. Let me tell
Yeah.
you
Well,
about
they'd
this ghost.
Sorry. Well, I kind of left out some things. I guess because Lorraine is a psychic medium, there were things that she knew about the house that only the guy who resided there would know. So she basically told him a few of the things that this guy was experiencing, and that's kind of what led him to allowing them to come in, because like obviously she knows something. So that's kind of how that happened.
But what was in the well? Like, okay, so
I don't
full
know.
disclosure, I know firsthand spirit is real. That is a thing. Ghosts, I am a full on yes, that's a thing. That being said, what the fuck was in like, okay, so I'm taking, because it happens certain times of the year, um, that would be something that I know last season we had Mr. Crowley on, who is a demonologist. And he was talking about the different types of hauntings. And one of them is a residual haunting, where it's like
Yeah.
it's just the ghost like doing its, like just pathing, doing its random thing
Yeah.
certain
And that
times of
might have
year.
been that almost sounds like that's exactly what that is, because it's reoccurring.
And it's the same thing every time. So
Right.
what was I want to know? Feel like this is a I think
Well,
we've
I
talked
had
about the
heard a
meme
little
what's in
bit
the box.
I heard a little bit of like some backstory about the house regarding pirates and uh, hauntings, and something about like uh, this girl who, after her husband died, this pirate had invited her into his home to stay. Not sure what the intentions of that was, but and it included like a bunch of her children as well, and so she was supposed to be like the housemaid or something. But there's not a whole lot about it, you know, what happens before or after. Like they end up finding this guy out in the orchard dead, slashed by a sword of some sort. But no one, and that's it. No one knows anything else, at least that I have come
See,
across, about the house.
here's the crazy thing about this. I for sure, again, I totally buy into spirit being a thing. Ghosts, real, for sure. I'm there. You got me on that.
Mm.
I'm from Vermont, which is historically right next to New Hampshire. It's like right there. Um, it's landlocked. There's no ocean. It's not oceanfront. So where
Right.
does this pirate come from? Like that's weird
Well,
to me.
like it was supposedly like that's where he retired.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it's like his Florida house, only in New
Yeah,
Hampshire.
I guess you could say
Land
a
pirates.
land pirate. Yeah, but I guess that's what she was invited to do, and I mean, there just wasn't a whole lot of information about that.
No, for
So,
sure. I mean, they definitely have. They, I guess,
but if you're dealing
they
with
were active
pirates, there
for
might be.
so they were so active for so long, and they essentially kind of revitalized and kind of almost coined the term demonologist from their
Mhm.
work. They were active from like the 50s and right up until
Like the 70s.
even throughout that, like, when you think of the Warrens, you think about the movies that have been coming out, the Conjuring series, Annabelle, um La Llorona. I just said that fucking wrong. I'm so sorry. Chat, that's a paddling. No, but like Lorraine was consulting on those right up
Mhm.
until like they were doing circuits, talking to different people at colleges, at random places. They had speaking events, and then they had that weird ass museum in the back of their house where
Yeah,
they kept
the
spooky shit.
occult museum.
Which, like,
I
that's
I
I don't like
even
that.
I even saw a clip from one of the newer Conjuring movies. I guess it's supposed to go about like the earlier stuff. And the guy that's playing Ed Warren, he's giving what looks like a lecture in a classroom to maybe older students, probably something that they did, you know. And but Lorraine, like the real Lorraine, she's sitting in the front row as an extra.
Just she pulled a Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm here for it. But yeah, I mean, they were active for quite some time, and during that time, they covered a lot of ground. I mean, I'm not gonna. From my understanding, they just sort of like showed up places. Like sometimes they
Mm-hmm.
were specifically invited, but sometimes they just be showing up. They'd be like something spooky over here. Bam. Like they get a whiff of something spooky and they're there, which I
Mm-hmm.
respect. I respect that, but also like, ooh, don't do that. Uh,
I heard they chased a lot of tales too. Like if they overheard someone talking about some haunting, they would be like, "Oh, let's go, let's go." They just went.
they just went, yeah. But
Like
like you,
just ghost hunters, chasers.
yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
they're like ghost. Thinking of the supernatural bit, ghost facers, but no, they kind of just went around and did that. But from my understanding, they never charged the people that they went to help. However, they made a substantial amount of money from book deals, from again these tour like where they go and they do like the lecture circuits, the
mm-hmm.
talking circuits, and movie deals.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
so I on a whim I just looked up their net worth because I'm nosy, and it looks like it's between 12 and 85 million is what Forbes put their net worth at,
yeah.
which for some people that just chase some spooky stuff, like that's pretty good money. And they also what they do is when they would go and find um cursed objects or like items that were
Mm-hmm.
attached to negative shit, they would just be like, I'm gonna scoop this up. I'll take this off your
Yep.
hands. And then they had this little like museum back of their house where they just kind of put stuff. And then they
Mm-hmm.
charged, I think it was like $13 to go through and look at all the spooky shit.
Right. And the rule was you were not supposed to touch anything.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Personally,
I could totally kind of come from that. Like, I have a hard time going into antique shops. They just make me want to leave. Like, I don't
I
want to touch it.
I hear you. My first thought would be like, I'm gonna for sure fucking break this immediately. And then I'd be that awkward
Well,
person
that
like
too.
holding
That
Robert the
too.
doll, just like, I'll put this back and just like walk away. But like,
Yeah, no.
I
No, I
just
won't touch dolls. Nope.
no, I won't either. Dolls are fucking creepy, and at some point I'm gonna do an episode in the future specifically discussing creepy ass dolls. Because I don't like them. But
Oh no,
no,
I agree.
they're creepy. Ugh.
My
Ugh.
my mom had a chatty patty, and she had that in my
A
room.
chatty
Why it was in
patty?
my room? Yeah, it's like 2.5 feet tall, and I don't know why it was in my room. It was just like I had like some of my stuff and some of my mom's toys, you know, from back then,
Back in the day.
and I kid you not, like maybe it was child imagination, maybe it wasn't, but I kid you not, like that doll moved. Like it moved. Not all the time, but like every now and then, like I would just start staring at it and that thing would just oh
I
no.
fuck no. I'm good night. Ugh, good night. No.
I took that out. My mom was like, what you don't want the doll in there for? She laughed at me. You're
I
silly. That's
there
not
was I used to love
real.
there was like a short window where I loved dolls, mainly because my grandmother got me porcelain dolls. And she was
Hmm.
like, "Beautiful dolls, beautiful." And then she got me this like it was like a 2 foot tall porcelain Marie Antoinette doll. And it was like hand tatted lace. Like a lot of care went into making this doll. But I fucking hated that doll. It creeped me out and like it accidentally fell over. And then the dolls just I was like, I need the dolls gone, and my mom's like, cool, dolls are gone, bet.
Right?
Um
Get them out. They're
she's like,
staring at
fantastic,
me.
getting these out. But just I will get back to we'll totally get back to Lorraine and Ed Warren. Just real quick, I just wanted to throw this out there. Furbies.
Oh no, no,
Creepy
no.
as fuck, right?
Nope.
I used to hate the thing because they again there was these cute. If you don't know what a Furby is, Google it, guys. It's for sure. They look adorable, and you're like, wow, that's so cute. Except for the not.
That
Okay,
is so subjective.
like firstly, here's
They
that's
look
coming
like a
from.
cryptid that's gonna eat like a goat or something.
Here's the thing. I love. I don't. You can also Google this. There are these little dolls called fugglers, which are these
Oh
like just
no, I've
ugly,
seen
ugly
those.
ass dolls. I think they're beautiful. I love them. I actually have like several little like keychain ones because zombie went out and I was like, I want a fuggler, and he's like, bet I got you, babe. And then he went and he searched like several places to try to find them. And he's like, I couldn't find a full size one; they were sold out. But I found these, and he brought me like uh I think it was like 8 or 9 different like little keychains, and I brought one to my niece. And my niece is now 5. At the time, she was like 3, and it was the
Oh
one with
man.
like the human teeth and the fuck. It would like had the human teeth and shit.
Oh
And she
no.
loved it. She's like, "Can I have this?" I'm like, "You can for sure have that." And my
That's
sister was like, "I fucking hate you. Why would you do this?" And I'm like, "Dude, like, I'm just happy she
that's
likes what I like."
that's like the recent story of the little girl uh insisted that her mom give her this creepy looking doll. Like it looks like it's old and falling apart and haunted potentially, like it's some horror doll, and her mom didn't want to get it for her, but she was like very adamant, like I want this one.
This specific spooky ass thing.
Yeah.
But no, Furbies, what would do is, because the way they were set up is that they were supposed to talk. Like, if you had more than one Furby, like, next to each other, they would talk to each other. And they would start talking in Furbish, I think is what it was, Furbish. And it was just like these little, like, clicks and, like, and little noises and
Yeah.
shit. And they would only do that when they sensed an infrared thing. Like, they had a little infrared sensor, and they would be able to
Oh.
talk to each other, and they would like if people were around talking to them, they would talk. They were like sound and like light activated.
Ooh.
And there is no greater fear than when you're half asleep on the couch. There is a Furby in the other room. You know for a fact
And it goes
nobody's
off.
in there, no pets, nothing. There is no way that Furby should be doing anything. And all of a sudden you hear, hee hee, like, nope, absolutely not.
That's
Um,
They still make toys like that. In fact, they have like a line of toys where they have these chips in them, and if they're within a certain vicinity, I'm thinking like maybe I think it's like Bluetooth or something. If they're in a certain vicinity, if you activate one, it activates all of them. And so like you can buy all these different toys and they do that, and I kid you not, nothing's more creepy when you have just a random toy going off all on its own.
No, I'm over it. Not at all. Again, I fully want to dive into creepy ass dolls. I need to stop talking about. I mean, we're gonna talk about a doll, obviously, in a little bit, but I just need a moment to not talk about dolls because they're creepy and I don't like it. So yeah, Ed and Lorraine. So Lorraine, she had the Claire's. She had different Claires. The
Mm-hmm.
multiple different Claires going on. She was a self-professed psychic medium. At
Mm-hmm.
some point, a parapsychologist actually
Yeah.
tested her. I don't know how they tested because I don't know enough about the situation, but statistic brain is like, I need to know all of the variables of this study. How did they test her? I don't know. But they
Right.
tested her for psychic abilities, and she tested higher than most people, normal people would. So it stands to reason that maybe she did have these innate abilities. Because, everybody to some degree
Right.
has a Claire,
Yeah,
um,
that's what they say.
including Claire's jewelry store. No, absolutely not. We're not endorsing that.
Isn't it called icing now?
So I don't even know. I don't even know. But so she did that. I know that in their early life, they didn't just like wake up and we're like, we're married now. We're gonna hunt some demons. They weren't just like all of a sudden like
Yeah.
that. I think they were I wanna say they were gonna be artists. Like they were like, we're gonna make our
Yeah, they
living
were
doing art.
painters. They were painters, and they were making a living off of art. Like they would travel, and he would paint ocean, oceanfront uh, paintings and stuff like that, and they would sell them to live off of.
I think early on, one of the shticks um that they did. And I say shticks because on the one hand, again, totally believe in ghosts, believe in that. Um, but there is the Warrens have a very divisive sort of reception from people. Where it's like, these are
Yeah.
100% for sure factual, and these guys are fucking con artists.
Right.
Um, but so there's like the two camps, and then the people who kind of fall in the middle who are like, maybe could
Right.
one does
Like,
not exclude the other, but what they
like I
would.
think.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you. I want to hear you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like the fact that I do believe that she was psychic medium, but they just kind of exploited that and made to make money off of it because why not?
Why not, dude? I listen. I will never knock someone's hustle. Full fact. But like, we'll get into some specific stuff in a little bit. But so I think at the beginning, and I want to think. I don't know if I remember this right, but I feel like because when we talked about doing this yesterday, because this is when we planned that we're like, yeah, we're gonna do this. Um, you had mentioned drawings of houses, and I racked my brain, and I was like, yeah, because I think what they did, and please someone fact check me, because I might be totally talking out my ass, but I think one of the things that they did at the beginning of their like career is they would just go around drawing houses, and
Yeah.
they Lorraine would be like, yo, that house is haunted.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, that house right there. And he'd draw out the house. They'd knock on the door and they'd go, hey, we drew this house for you. We drew the front of your house. It's very beautiful. We can paint it for you in exchange for you telling us what sort of spooky shit's happening here.
Right.
And then people were like, oh, bet. And then they'd tell them. And then they would paint the painting. And then they would either give it to the person or they'd sell it. So either way, they were getting something out of the art. But I feel
I'll,
like that
I'll
is a
I'll
thing.
be honest. If I had some spooky stuff going on in my house and someone showed up with an unfinished painting and then they finished it in the house, something about like that process just kind of scares me. I wouldn't want that on top of all this other spooky stuff,
I'm
you know?
like, now I have a haunted painting. Thanks,
Right.
Carl.
Like
Thank
you
you.
completed something. I mean, like in a way, it's like, did you complete a ritual? Like, what's the point of this? Like,
Zombie said, spooky isn't art. But yeah, so they did a lot of stuff. A lot of people, when they think about the Warrens, they think of several high profile cases where
mm-hmm.
they were in the news, where they ended up making books and movies on these different events. Um, and there's a lot of controversy around the
Oh yeah.
adaptations and about their involvement. So,
I feel like there's
which
a lot of resistance, or what was that word you just used? A lot of
you're asking me to remember a word I just said like a minute ago?
yeah, I know. It's
Any-
like two people. We're both in the same boat. No, like I just feel like when it comes to like the paranormal and stuff like that, or even aliens, it's
oh, very
a-
divisive. Like,
you know,
there's two different
yeah,
camps.
there's a lot of skepticism around it. So regardless,
I mean, as there should be. Um,
right?
I mean,
It's not
it's not.
something you can
Yeah,
easily prove, or
exactly. There's not a lot of, what is the word I'm thinking of? There's not a lot of empirical evidence. Now, there are definitely
mm-hmm.
groups out there who approach paranormal investigations with science. They try to
Right,
measure electronic magnetic fields, voice phenomenon. They try to get photos. They try to, find everything they can. They actually had that one show, and I love it. I loved this show so fucking much as a teenager, Ghost Hunters, because these dudes were
oh
straight up
yeah,
plumbers and general contractors. And they're like, we're gonna find out if this is a ghost. And then they'd be like,
yeah.
actually, so here's where your electrical's messed up. We went ahead and fixed that for you, and now it's in code. Like, I loved those dudes because they
I've
were they were approached it from a very like, yeah, your door's opening because there's a draft, like there is a
right.
suction happening. Like, I loved that.
Got to try to disprove it.
Yeah, they always went into the like, we're gonna find the mundane reason. And there's a lot of different paranormal societies um, who approach investigations like that. And then there are those that rely more heavily on the spiritualistic aspect of it. The Warrens were
We're very
die-hard
religious.
Catholics. They
Yeah.
were like, and I think in the season one episode when I was hanging out with Mr. Crowley, he said it, like if you're looking for something spooky, your brain's going to find it. And if you go into it with that mindset, you're going to see
Right.
demons everywhere.
Right.
Um, which that's fair. That's totally fair. Um, I
That's
mean,
like that that the high seer on TikTok, how he talks about, like, he doesn't believe in demons, but he says that he sees them as dark energy, not necessarily like a demonic thing. But
no, that's
even
for
he says,
sure.
like, that stuff exists. And like someone was asking him, well, if I watch something scary, is that going to invite something in? And he says no, but if you put the intent towards that, then yes, it can.
No, that's
And
that's for sure. It's spot on, and I agree with that.
yeah, so
That
he's
fits
like,
my
it's okay to
worldview.
be spooky from a show or enjoy it or whatever, but don't turn it into something that it's not. He says
Yeah.
basically,
Also, if you hear your name in the forest, Naden,
don't go.
just don't. Just like, rule of thumb. Just like,
Or
just
whistling at night.
don't do it, because you will get. I will personally, if I'm there, I will slap the shit out of you. Real talk. If you do that in my presence, it's hands on sight. But just don't. Um, because if you fuck around, you find out. So just don't. But yeah. So in Lorraine, they had a lot of high profile cases.
Hmm.
Um, and I know we wanted to kind of touch base and talk about each one a little bit, or some of them, because again, they were active for quite some time.
Oh yeah.
I would love to just like go over like the baseline of what happened, and then we could like pick it apart a little bit. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, I was thinking we could start with the story of Annabelle.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so Annabelle, the basically like a Raggedy Ann doll, It's about three foot in height or so. It was given to a nurse like around 1971 as a present from her mother. And so that's kind of, I mean, first of all, that's kind of, I mean, she's a grown woman. She's becoming a nurse. So that's just kind of weird. But she would take it to her to bed. And she also had a roommate who was also a nurse. And after a few nights, you know, like there was nothing going on. And then after a few nights, she just felt compelled to take it to the kitchen. So she brought it into the kitchen, joking around, saying, "Oh, it's gonna have breakfast with us." This went on for, you know, a few more mornings, and then one morning, with both of the nurses in the kitchen, the doll was seated in the chair, and apparently, its arms raised up from like the armrests of the chair and were placed on top of the table itself, and that freaked out the women.
Like a Midwestern goodbye. Well, we're done.
Yeah, and it freaked out the women, and so the roommate says, you know, like, "Oh my gosh, like, did that, you know, they were just in disbelief, did that just happen?" And so she's like, you know, she's like, "I wonder if it's trying to tell us something." She says she knows a medium that they can invite over, and so they do that. They ended up holding a seance
Fuck's
where,
sake.
right, a lot of spooky stuff happens, and the medium says that supposedly there's a spirit of like a 6-year-old girl who had been killed recently, right? And that's true. There was a 6-year-old that was killed in an automobile accident out front.
That's
Um,
awful.
but it tells them that there's a 6-year-old girl spirit inside this doll. Well, uh, real quick, Ed has stated that he's like, him being with his religious background, he states that there's no way that God would ever allow a human spirit into an inanimate object. So he's like, it has to be demonic. And so, but anyways, this was after the fact. So,
Yeah.
the women, they take the doll and they're thinking there's a girl in it, and so they straight up acknowledge it by they take it for car rides, they buy it clothing, they put jewelry on it, you
So
know,
they were
treating it
trying
like
to
a little
make you
girl.
happy. That's
Right.
kind of sweet.
And which they end up, you know, because now they're recognizing whatever spirit's in there.
They're feeding
Um,
into that.
right. And so Ed says, you know, what this created was what he calls like an infestation. So soon after that, they started treating this doll like a real little girl. Um, they started hearing like knocking sounds around the apartment. They would see like flashing lights shooting across the rooms. Some of the beds would shake, or the room would become like icy cold. And they also would hear whispering. So
No, you didn't.
the women, huh?
Like, no,
No,
you
you didn't.
didn't.
So this really like terrified them. So they happened to work like at the same hospital, and they were able to, I guess, get onto the same shift so that they wouldn't be home alone
And they were
at any
roommates.
point. And why? Well, first of all, why are they holding on to this doll still? And
Right? No, for sure. I'd have yeeted that thing immediately,
like
like, nope.
we got this doll is doing weird stuff. Let's just keep it.
Just drop it off at Goodwill.
We'll just change our work shift. But I guess one night after midnight, they were returning home from work, and when they opened the front door, the doll was literally like standing there.
Fuck that. Raggedy Ann dolls cannot stand on their own. Canonically.
Exactly.
They are literally like, they're like sack dolls.
and that's what, you know, like Ed was saying, like there's obviously something's possessing it, because there's no way a doll would freestand. And so the fiance of one of the women found out, and he tells them like, "Oh my god, you guys have to burn the doll and throw it away. It's evil," right?
That's a terrible idea. Don't fucking, like, the instinct, I get it, like, kill it with fire. For sure get it. I understand. But also, that's a terrible fucking idea. Like,
I heard, what's your source? Trust me, bro.
just trust me, it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Yeah. Don't do it.
So, I guess he goes over the following afternoon. They're cleaning. I guess they're all cleaning the house. He falls asleep in one of the armchairs, and the women are, I guess, in the kitchen. They're cleaning.
What a dad
And
move to just be like, I bet.
just
Sits in an armchair, immediately passes out.
right. Well, he wakes up from a nightmare, and the women come in, like, what's going on? And he says, I just had a nightmare. And he says, in the dream, this doll was strangling me. And so he gets up and he grabs the doll and he yells at it. He's like, you're just a stupid doll. And he throws it across the room.
This
And
is the
apparently,
medium.
no, this is just the fiance
Oh,
of
the
one of the
fiance.
women. Yeah. And because he's like fed up with this, like the fact that these women are kind of feeding into this whole thing. He's just like, you're just a stupid doll. And he throws it across the room. Well, apparently, they recall that he had like 7 psychic slashes on his body. Like this happened in front of the women.
A psychic slash for our home viewers it's when you have marks on your body from something you can't see, something that didn't
Right.
happen, but your body reacted to it. 2 things I want to just point out real quick before we finish into this. There is a thing that a lot of different cultures attest to. I think some of the Eastern cultures refer to it as like a tulpa, but it's a thought form. And the idea is that by you creating this mythos and buying into it and feeding it energy, by creating the narrative and fulfilling it, that is what's going to be reality. It's going to take the energy you feed it, and it's going to manifest from your energy. You will create something. So the
Kind of
idea
like
of like,
how
oh wow, a
they say
haunted doll, and
people can
then
make portals.
yeah, no, for sure. So it's that idea of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, if I tell myself this doll is haunted, if I tell myself it is going to do this, it's acting crazy, it would not surprise me if whether or not it actually occurred, that your experience is going to be that, because you set yourself up for that. If that No,
Right.
I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying that's a
Right,
thing
right.
that a lot of different cultures across the globe, historically, canonically, have actually talked about, which is wild. The second thing, I'm a huge proprietor. I stand farm lore, which is if you have a dream and you speak about it before you eat, it will come
Oh, I've
true.
heard of that.
Yeah, but if you eat and then you speak about it, it won't come true. So this dude had a nightmare about a haunted doll attacking him. And then his dumbass talked about it before eating like a bagel or something. And then he's like, wow, and these weird psychic slashes. Like, my guy, come on now. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like I, again, fully believe in farm lore because I've personally seen it and experienced it. But yeah, those are the 2 things I wanted to bring up. That, like, this
Oh
is
yeah,
crazy
totally.
shit for sure.
Like they
But
say, mind over matter, even.
yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of documented things, like documented experiences of people being able to just like go through surgeries without anesthesia because they're like, nah, I'm not going to feel this. And then their body's like, bet, we're not going to feel this. So yeah, I can't
I
explain how a
wish.
Raggedy Ann doll stands up, but like, my worldview will accept the idea that he got psychic slashes because he was dumb and talked about a nightmare without eating a snack. But yeah, so he yelled at the doll and threw it, had psychic slashes. What happened next?
Well, a lot of like the furniture started to move around, and like photos were thrown off the walls. And so what they did is they ended up calling the High Episcopal Canon, which I guess is a church official up
Yeah.
there, and who then called Father Nolan or Warren. And so when the father and Ed and Warren, showed up at the house, they performed an exorcism on all 3 of the people, including the doll. Now, see, I don't have a whole lot of information on like what else happened while they were there. I just know that like um, they for sure, the doll was possessed, and that as they were even when they were taking it back to the museum, um, he started having like car troubles and whatnot. Like the car would like jolt, like as if something was like grabbing the steering wheel kind of thing, and so apparently he had to like pull over and douse it in holy water just to get it back to the museum. I mean,
The
you could take
museum
that
that
with a
was
grain of
conveniently
salt,
located
but
on the very back end of their house. They took the creepy ass haunted doll
right.
and brought it
Well,
to their
the
fucking house.
apparently, like, I mean, if you're all religious and whatnot, the case that the doll sits in is covered is has been stained with it's like a mixture of stain and holy water. So apparently, like, um, they've even live streamed it on their YouTube before, like they have to when they perform like maintenance and stuff on the doll to restain it with holy water and whatnot. Um, there's like this huge procedure that they go through where like they all get blessed that morning, and they wash their hands in holy water, they wear gloves so not to touch it, and it's kind of like
Yeah, because
I don't know
isn't
how
it
often they
supposed
do
to
it.
isn't it supposed to be? Because I know you hear a lot about people who have gone to the museum when it was open because it's closed now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are these letters, like, because apparently people would make fun of the doll,
Oh yeah.
and then she would, in their minds, the doll would curse them.
Right, like there's
Which leads into my theory that it's probably a thought form.
mm,
Um, that bad luck would happen, and then they'd go and apologize to the doll, and then the
yeah,
doll
there
would
were a lot
forgive
of
them.
like side stories about people um because they're not supposed to touch anything. Like there's one of like this one detective or whatever. He just went up to go visit because he wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and uh, Ed told him don't touch it, don't touch anything actually, and but he had to excuse himself because the phone was ringing,
At
and
which
before
point,
he
homie
even,
touched it.
of course, and so I guess like before he even got off the phone, the guy shows up. He comes up out of from where the museum was, and Ed's like, you all right? You look like you're. I guess the guy was all pale and whatnot. He never talked about it. He ended up resigning from the police force months later, and he moved out to California. No one ever heard from him again. And when Ed went into the where the doll was supposed to be, he noticed that the doll was no longer in its case, and a lot of shit was like thrown around. He's like, "Oh, you touched the doll."
Listen, if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You had one rule, which was not to touch it, so he took it out of the fucking case.
Yeah, supposedly he had thrown it, and that's when I guess caused a lot of stuff to happen.
I I made it 3 episodes into the season, but I remember distinctly. I just so Zach Bagans apparently went and hung out with the doll. And if anyone has ever experienced any, like, when I say experienced, I mean if anyone's ever watched any of his content, he antagonized the doll, and then he was like not having a good time for a while after that. He was sick and like shit was weird. I made it 3 episodes into the season without saying it, but here it is. Zach Bagans is a fucking cunt. That guy is so disrespectful to Spirit, and like
Yeah,
I don't feel bad. No. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's to this day the whole stigma of like the doll will curse you. So I mean,
right.
we have this tale, we have this story where the doll, these people are like, oh, creepy ass doll, seems really creepy. They have experiences where they're like, this is happening. And then after they get confirmation from a spiritual advisor, a medium, they're like, yeah, this shit's for sure haunted. take an uptick in activity. It gets
Mm-hmm.
progressively more. Then they have these different paranormal investigators, these different mediums come in, these religious figures who for sure they actually do an exorcism on the doll. They perform an exorcism on the doll, leading farther into the thought that, yo, this shit is
Right.
crazy. And there's still an uptick in this. And the mythos
That's
around
like
this doll has just continued to give it more
to grow.
energy. And that's why
Yeah,
I'm like, it's probably a thought form.
that's like the other high seer when he talks about stuff like that, how like uh the more like people put out energy, and when
Hi, Mom.
you get a lot of people like kind of forming stuff, like stuff can happen and in the form of energy, right?
Yeah,
So I mean that's totally like, whether depending on a variety of beliefs, it all kind of it it all kind of comes arrives to the same conclusion.
yeah, which is if you're gonna feed into
Fuck
that, if
around,
you're
you're gonna find out.
absolutely, absolutely, if you take nothing from this episode but that, we hope that you enjoy the rest of it. But like, if that's the only lesson you learn, like, job well done. Good job for us. So yeah, haunted doll. My take on it, thought form. Your take on it? You think it's haunted?
Well, haunted to the extent of just energy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um,
I don't necessarily believe in demons.
no, for sure.
I believe in like spirits,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I think it's possible
I
an
mean,
energy could accumulate around something.
yeah, and then if you continue to feed it, for sure.
Right.
Um, Now would I hang out with the doll? No, because dolls are fucking creepy
Oh
and I'm
hell
not
no.
doing it. Uh,
Or just as a rule of thumb, even if you don't believe one way or the other, or you
respect it.
totally disbelieve it all, just like I don't want to be the one to find out. I'm not gonna mess with it.
No,
So
I'm gonna wait for some detective to open that case and then watch him.
like like
You
like
know,
like Ouija boards. I don't want to fuck around and find out.
no, for
Like
sure, for
I'm
sure.
gonna just not touch it.
As a rule of thumb, with spirit, it is important, even if you don't believe in it, even if that's not in your worldview, just respect
Just
it.
be respected.
Be
Yeah.
respectful, because what's the worst that's gonna happen? You were respectful for the thing that doesn't exist, or on the adverse, that you were disrespectful and then it turned out to be real and it's gonna come for you. Like, just don't. Just be nice. Just be nice.
Exactly.
But yeah, Annabelle has. So they made movies about it because they did a book. They
A
talked
lot of
about
them.
it. They've made a whole ass series of movies. Um, hide and seek. Yeah, Phasmo, Phasmo reference immediately. Yeah. But part of the funny thing is they had to change the doll in the movies for copyright issues because they were like, we're not
Right.
going to get slammed with copyright. And they made the doll for this movie. I think I watched like 5 minutes of the first one, and I was like, that doll looks creepy as hell. And these people are dumb. No. And I stopped watching. I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I can't watch 2 hours of you guys being stupid. Like, just don't. But yeah, that's just something really interesting that they have a whole ass series of movies based on this, where they like again fed into this mythos. People paid money. Money was made. A lot of people went
Oh
into the
yeah.
production of this, which like I hope that they made money. I hope that they, gained something from this, but also in doing so, if it is a thought form, all they did was continue to feed this thing that is housed at somebody's house. It's in a
Oh
in
yeah.
a like case.
And and I'm also sure that the satanic panic from the 80s just kind of helped blow it
Oh
all up
yeah.
too.
Oh yeah. For
That was such a
sure.
huge catalyst.
There was actually I'm going to switch gears to a different story because they just came out with a movie I think about this.
Oh,
It was
do
a
you care if I run to the restroom real quick?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to
Okay, I'll
spitball
be
for
right
a
back.
second. Um so yeah, that's basically the story of Annabelle. Um I don't like dolls. I don't like it. But Ed and Lorraine Warren, they were most active. They had a lot of stuff going on in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Those were like the high profile time frame for them to get to do these different things. They went out to different places. Some of the places they were invited to, some they were not. I'm thinking, so we just went over the Annabelle case, which weird. Not gonna lie to you. There's a lot to be said on either side of that. But I'm hydrating like a good girl.
All right.
But yeah, a lot to be said about that, the doll. Because I know that's not the only doll they have in there.
Oh yeah.
But the museum that all of these creepy cursed objects, the museum that is literally on the back of their house, was closed in 2019 because it was in the wrong zone.
Oh wow.
They closed not because of like crazy reports or anything like that. It was a zoning violation that like continued to go.
You
They're like,
can't have that here.
like you don't listen. This is a residential area. Y'all are clearly running a like spooky ass museum out of your house. So no. It went on for a very long time before they got hit with that, but they did close their doors, so you will no longer pay $13 to walk around the creepy house museum. The energy coming off it's real, not good. Yeah, I mean, for sure. And again, and my thought and my theory on it is that it's a thought form, in that giving it the energy, acknowledging and stating and creating this mythos and perpetuating it is only feeding it more. So then you are going to see shit happen because everybody's been feeding it, right? That's my personal headcanon. That's my theory. Again, with a lot of these paranormal things, it's hard to say definitively this is a thing scientifically because it's hard to prove empirically that metaphysical shit, that paranormal shit happens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, again, they try. There are a lot of paranormal investigators, parapsychologists, people who are trying to quantify a metaphysical experience with science, so they could replicate and say, this is a thing that we have proven. Here is the data. But again, it's so hard because a lot of it is subjective. That was one of the biggest things that a lot of different investigators and a lot of different media outlets, even, I want to say, again, someone please feel free to fact check me and tell me if I'm talking out my ass. I feel like even the Catholic Church was like, yo, these guys are not objective when they go into something. They go in specifically looking to find it, and they're going to mold whatever they see to fit that. There's also a lot of examples of different investigations that turned out there's a lot of like misinformation on it. I want to kind of turn it a little bit. We're gonna kind of time jump, because they just came out with a movie about it. Again, these are real people, real people's lives, and I'm not in any way trivializing their experience or trying to exploit it. I am just talking about it because we want to understand it. So they made a movie, The Devil Made Me Do It, and this was based on a murder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm somewhat familiar with this.
yeah. So what had happened was, this dude stabbed his landlord, and when he went to court for it, because they were like, "Hey, you can't go around murdering people. Like, you can't just stab a dude like 6 times and like not get arrested." Which is fair. I get that. But when they're like, "Hey, enter your plea," they pled not guilty by reason of demonic possession. And how they had that, like, in their pocket. I mean, the judge for sure threw that shit out. He's like, "No, you can't prove to me that that happened empirically,
Right.
so we're not doing that." And they ended up doing,
Is that
self-defense. I
insanity
think
or
it was like it
something?
was like self-defense, I think.
Oh.
And he got first-degree manslaughter. I think, yeah, he got a manslaughter. I don't know which degree. He got a manslaughter charge. Uh, was supposed to go in for like 10 or 20 years. He made it out in 5 for good behavior, which is like good on him. Um, but here's
He
the
murdered someone
information.
though.
Here's the information I remember. So, the event that took place. Um, he had called out of work. He was hanging out with his fiance girlfriend. And the girlfriend worked for his landlord, but like at a different like business. And
Mhm.
the girlfriend's cousin, who was a 9-year-old girl, was there. They were hanging out. They went and got lunch. They were chilling. Landlord shows up. He's hanging out. Starts to drink. I guess some form of argument and started ensuing. And the landlord grabbed the 9-year-old girl and would not let her go. Um, so then homie was like, "Bet I'm gonna stab you," and
Oh
then
wow.
that's how it
That
happened.
escalated quickly.
It escalated. Honestly, though, here's the thing: don't fuck with kids. On
Oh yeah, no, I
I
agree.
am not condoning violence, but like if there is
But I
a
think
9-year-old child in my care,
I guess I
for
would have to know what happened because the stabbing is pretty. Uh.
yeah, I mean, again, we don't have the full specifics of what happened, like where she was grabbed, how she was grabbed. We don't know any of that. We don't know the specifics
Mhm.
of the conversation. I don't, at least, because I didn't fully research this. Not gonna lie to you, I'm just remembering this. Um, so again, may totally have some details wrong, but if I'm in a room and a man grabs a 9-year-old, I'm gonna throw hands. I may not go immediately to stab. Like that does seem, but again, I
Right.
don't personally know like how severe the grabbing was. If he won't let the 9-year-old girl go, that's crazy. But here's why why they thought that they could go for the demonic possession thing. Before that, like a few weeks before, I want to say, there was a child, the girlfriend's family, there was a kid who was having like tremors. He would just like drop, shake, and like would, according to the lore of it, he would speak in tongues or like Latin. And it started when they were trying to clean out a house or something. And he kept saying that there was an old man that was pushing him down, and nobody else could see the old man. They were like, this kid's just trying to get out of work.
Mhm.
Um, and something happened, and they were like, yeah, it's possession. Um, and Lorraine and Ed got involved. There was an exorcism that was attempted, or that they did. And at one point, the boyfriend, for who some fucking reason is there, like, it's a
Oh
family matter,
right.
an
And it jumps to
exorcism,
him.
and he's there. And no, here's what happened. So according to um the things I'm remembering, according to like the story was that during the exorcism, the boyfriend of the relative of the child that's being exorcised, he's there for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and he decides to antagonize whatever entity is in the child, and tells it, "You leave him alone. You come into me. You come into me."
He invited it.
He invited it in, and he told him like, "Yeah." So if I remember right, that night or like a couple of days after, Lorraine called the local PD and was like, "Yo, just to let you know, there was an exorcism. Shit got wild. Um, and like violence might happen in the future." And they were like, "Cool story, lady. Thank you. Thank you
She
for."
actually had called them and told them
She had
that?
called, if I remember this right,
Wow,
she
that's
warned the
insane.
police
I
and
mean,
was
not
like,
insane, like insane. Like that's
yeah. So she
wow.
warned the police, like, "Yo, this is a thing that might happen." And the
And they
police
probably
were
just
like,
laughed it
"I
off.
bet." And then this happened, and the Warrens were like, "Yo, this is a thing." They showed up. Then they were talking about how all these priests were involved because apparently allegedly there were a bunch of priests involved in the exorcism attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And the lawyer was like, "Hey, I'm gonna subpoena you," and the archdiocese was like, "No, the fuck you ain't." They never like the priests. The diocese never like commented on it. They were like, "No, we're not doing this, not today," because if there was an exorcism, uh, the diocese, the Catholic procedure would be that a bishop would have been involved first. There would have been a consultation. They would have
Mm.
gone through a bunch of hoops to knock out all the things that it could be if it wasn't a possession before they would have before the bishop would have reached out to the diocese, to the main church, two different cardinals to get approval for an exorcism to be attempted. Like they don't
Wow.
just like come out and they're like, "Bet it's a Tuesday, we're gonna exercise." That's not how the Catholic
Yeah.
Church rolls. Um, which is honestly it's refreshing to me that like that's like as archaic as the whole concept of exorcism can seem to some people. The fact that these organizations that do this, they try to say, "Hey, before we do all sorts of crazy weird shit, let's look at an underlying cause that may not be this. Maybe it's mental illness. Maybe it's a
Right.
substance. Maybe it's something in the environment.
That's
Maybe there's a health
interesting.
risk."
It's interesting. It's almost like a scientific approach to something when they're literally like the symbol of religion.
And it's like, hey, worst case scenario, it's ghosts in your blood. But like, but let's like look at the other stuff first. So the Warrens went on, they were like, "No, it was for sure this." But the judge wasn't hearing that. He was like, "No, absolutely not." And because he refused that plea as a thing. He refused it. None of the demonic possession shit could be involved in the court proceedings. It could
Oh
not. They
wow.
could not be subpoenaed. They couldn't do that. So, again, fully, I'm trying to just remember all this. The Warrens were like, they were talking to media people. They were like, "Yo, we're gonna we gotta let people know that this is the real situation. Like, this is what's happening." To fast forward, there's a book made. Now there's a movie, but there was a book made. It was the talking circuit. They did all this. The girlfriend who then married the dude after he got out of jail, and the guy who did the crime, they still to this day are like, "Yes, the Warrens' account is factual. That is exactly what
Mm-hmm.
happened. Shit's crazy." The family that was involved, though, of the boy who was the target of this, they actually sued they sued a bunch of people because they're like, firstly, this is defamation of like the situation. This is causing us mental duress. You're putting us on blast in these books, saying this or that thing. One of the family members was suing the Warrens specifically for defamation
Oh
because he was
wow.
like, your depiction in this book of me is that I was an antagonist, that I was a bad person that wasn't trying to help this child because because I'm agnostic and that I deserved everything I got. So
Oh,
there was a
I know that the
lot of,
Warrens are like super like anti-atheism
yeah. I
and
mean,
stuff
that's
like
neither
that.
here nor there, but it is an interesting fact. There's been a lot of controversy about whether or not, again, that this happened, that things happened the way they said they did. I mean, there was a whole ass, I think there was like an out of context like quote or something where even the lawyer was like, and again, please fact check me if I'm wrong, tell me because I want to know. But I feel like there was a situation where the lawyer was someone had said that the lawyer had made the comment, "I know that that there was no possession. I know this didn't happen because we concocted the story over wine."
Oh wow.
So, on the one hand, it's a compelling argument that, wow, this dude was trying to help this kid who was experiencing stuff. He, in an attempt to help, invited this thing in, and then during the situation, during the argument, he was said to have started growling, which like
The kid
no,
or the
the
boyfriend?
the boyfriend when he was gonna stab the guy. You didn't see it, but I did a hand motion.
Oh,
Um,
I heard it.
you know, um, the knife is in here with the Irish Spring. No, uh, so during that, like before he started, like whipped out his knife and was like, "Papa," um, he was purported to have been growling and making crazy noises. Which, like, full disclosure,
Like a
um,
psychopath.
I don't think he's a psychopath. I mean, honestly, when I meditate, I do like weird ass like breathing. Like I sound like a straight up animal, like because that's how I get myself psyched up for for what I refer to as meditating. Um, so yeah, like people can growl for like whatever reason. It doesn't mean there's a demon in their blood. I So in that one sense, it's like, well, maybe it did happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but there's conflicting stories. Like the people who
Well,
were impacted, who were allegedly the person who is now an adult, I'm pretty sure, um, was like, no, I was never possessed. I literally had fucking seizures, and like y'all exploited the shit out of my family, and told us we were gonna make millions, and then like they didn't pay them. Like they paid
mm-hmm.
them, but it was like not a lot. It was like
See,
$2,000 or some shit.
the story about the Amityville house, um, has some like parallels to that, like where they claim that the guy was possessed is what caused it, but then but then you also have the dynamic of the other family that moved in afterwards, just straight up abandoning their house. But then you're kind of thrown off about the defense lawyer, uh, passing around contracts for like movie deals. Like it makes you kind of wonder, like, did something really happen and they're just trying to make money off of it, or? But at the same time, there were so many things kind of like
There's so many
unexplainable
different mitigating
with it that it's
circumstances.
like, how could you really go one way or the other?
No, for sure. And again, it falls down to there is not a definitive way to prove with empirical data, especially after the fact. Us playing
Yeah.
Monday morning quarterback, we're not going to be able to say, "Oh, for sure, like here is everything." Where
Well,
this was like what 40 years ago? Jesus. Like
yeah.
this was like a long
Well,
ass
that's like
long
the
relatively.
weirdest thing that I felt that stood out about like the Amityville story was that so all of the family members were murdered in
Yeah,
bed
let's talk.
by
Let's what so Amityville. They made a movie, they made a book.
right.
They've made several movies, let's be real. Um so one of them had
So,
Ryan Reynolds in it, which was phenomenal.
oh,
Just
it
gonna throw.
did, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty great.
I didn't know that. Bacon cheese
Bacon!
zombie.
Thank you so much for the gift sub. You are a real G. Appreciate you. I love you. You're
I don't like
fantastic.
bacon.
Big cheese
Bacon.
zombie. What a
so
what a great you person. Just great person. Okay, Amityville. Amityville.
So the story of Amityville. So in the morning, around like 3:30 in the morning on November 13th, 1974, 6 members of a family were murdered in bed. And
It's kind of shitty.
right. So apparently, the one who committed the murder was the one of the older sons, Ronald DeFeo. I think that's how you said, DeFeo Jr. Um,
Junior.
he was the primary subject because he was the only one that was alive. He left the house. He ran to like a friend's house, to kind of tell him what had happened. But supposedly he had a 35 shotgun and had gone to each room and shot each one in bed. And the thing that was really weird was that when the bodies were discovered, they were all face down with their arms up. So they were all in the same position. And it wasn't as if like the bodies had been moved to the beds, because of the crime scene, supported that they were murdered in their beds. The thing that was so weird was no one reacted to the gunfire. In fact, even one of the neighbors never heard any gunshots either.
Because
All
this
they
wasn't. This
heard
was
was,
like Amityville's like by Long Island, right?
I
It's in New
think
York.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even one of the neighbors had said that, they didn't hear any gunshots. There were about 8 or 9 gunshots that went off, and all the neighbor heard was woken up by was their dog, the neighbor's dog, barking. So I just find it interesting how not even even after the first shot, you would think someone within the house would have woken up, got up to be like, "What's going on?" But that wasn't
Yeah, because
even
a
the case.
35 is loud.
Oh yeah, they did sound tests on it and found that it could be heard from 4 or 5 blocks away. So that all of that is just already really weird. And Ronald claims that the night that it had happened, that he saw um, a dark hooded person, you know, bringing a gun to him. Um, the thing that's really kind of weird about that is years later, I guess the house was under observation by a drug enforcement agent. I'm not sure why, but that person claims that they saw the older sister come outside wearing a jacket holding a rifle. So you've got two different things going on. Um,
And the older sister didn't live there.
oh, she did.
She did.
And yeah, so some think that perhaps maybe she could have killed them all, and then when he found her, he killed her. But it's just really weird that he claims to not have remembered anything, that he was basically just in a, I guess you could say,
Entranced?
sleepwalking. Yeah, in a trance, sleepwalking, and he woke up and he saw his family like that, and he left. He ran to a friend's house. He even told his friends what, I woke up, something happened, someone just killed all my family. So
I mean,
all of that was
that's
just
one way to
really
assert that,
weird.
like, oh my god, it wasn't
Right,
me.
true. True. But the fact that an agent had seen the older daughter come outside with the gun, I guess before anything happened, but again, no one heard any gunshots. So
Yeah, and if
just
you're a part of the DEA and you're watching a place, which I don't know why you were there, but like none of my damn
right.
business. But if you see it's like 3 a.m., you see a chick walking out in her nightie just with a gun, and you're close enough to see that, you should have been close enough to hear the shots.
Right.
And as a law
And
enforcement
how do you not have
person,
anyone screaming or running and getting up? And it was just really weird what was, how it all went down.
that's
But
just that's weird.
so yeah, so a year later, another family moved in. The house was owned by George and Kathy Lutz, and they ended up like fleeing the house 28 days later. He says from the moment they moved into the house, they just started experiencing all kinds of weird things.
Yeah, because it was a big
Um,
it was a big house, and they
mm-hmm,
bought it. It was like it was just over a year when they bought it from the realtor, and the realtor's
mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, you guys like the house? It's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, it's a really great price." It
They
was
got
like
a
a
really good
steal.
price
It was
on
like
it
a
too.
steal.
Yeah,
Like, wow, this is too good to be true.
they
She's like,
paid like
"Yeah, a bunch of people got
50,000 for
murdered
it back
here.
then.
Not gonna lie to you, a bunch of people got murdered here. Is that gonna be a problem?" And they were like,
Right.
I mean, for this amount, nah, that's fine." And I think
Yeah,
they
it had
even
a boathouse and everything.
yeah, which like I get that like fully. Like I can understand the draw of like I would like a really nice piece of real estate and not have to pay money. Like
Yeah,
at what point do you
especially
draw the
if
line?
you especially if you don't even believe in that kind of stuff. It's like,
It's
yeah,
like
so what? They're
that's
dead, they're gone. It's like,
fine. But
but the
there
first
was they also bought the furniture because the furniture was still in the house. I think it was like $500. The realtor was like, "Yeah, there's it's like mostly furnished." Um, y'all want the furniture, we could just like tack on $500 or some shit. And they were like, yeah, why not? You know, we like furniture. So they
Yeah.
had the original furniture in the house when they moved
Man,
in.
that's a lot of energy.
Hmm.
But I guess for like the first few days, George would wake up around 3:15 in the morning, which would have kind of been around the time that the whole family was murdered.
Mm.
And he would hear like strange noises and voices like down the halls and stuff. And then it progressively started to get worse. Like there was a rocking chair in the little girl's room that would move on its own.
Nope.
Uh,
No, we're leaving.
they began to see red eyes from something outside, and knives would get thrown around. They would hear like someone crying. But what really kind of like scared them, um, well, what led up to it was their daughter Missy told told her mom that she had made a friend, and you know how children are more susceptible, more
Yeah, I
open
mean, kids
to
are, because
seeing and
they
hearing.
don't have those restrictions put on them, because
Right.
the whole concept is like kids are closer to spirit because they're open. They have not been told, "Hey, that's weird. Don't do that."
Or
So they're,
yeah, or don't believe in it. Yeah.
yeah,
And so this friend of hers presented itself as a pig, like a large pig named Jody, and Jody had told her that
oh my
they
god,
were going to live there forever. And so when she
that's
told her mom
beautiful.
this, they freaked out. And later that night, in fact, they won't even talk about it to this day because they don't want to revisit it. It scares them so much that basically they just got up in the middle of the night and they just
They
left.
just
They didn't
dipped.
take anything. They just left everything there. And so when Ed and Lorraine were called, um, well, I guess there was a lot of other things. They had also reached out to another paranormal investigator, which
Yeah,
turned out to be
yeah, in the book, because
like
they did a
he was
book.
like a vampirologist or something, and they were working with like the defense lawyer from the previous guy. Um, they wanted like
Which is
they're like, oh, this is
sus. Just
this
gonna
is
say that
gonna
that's
make a
really sus.
yeah. They're like, this is gonna make a really good movie, and so they tried to turn it into. They wanted to turn it into a movie, and so the George Lutz, he basically was like, I don't want to talk to you ever again, and that's when he reached out to Ed and Lorraine, and so they came over to check out the house, and they said that like the second that they walked into the house, it had like a foul smell, and it just felt like depressed and very heavy. And but they weren't alone. They had like a camera crew, and they had like a bunch of other uh, what were they called, parapsychologists,
Yeah.
and they just had like they even had like a journalist with them. Like they brought like a whole entourage of people into this place to check it out. And I was probably because they were receiving a lot of like, oh, you guys are making stuff up. So I guess they just wanted to surround themselves with other people
To
that
be
could
like, we're
potentially
not the only
experience it.
ones
Yeah,
trying to.
and exactly. And so I guess while they were walking around, they all experienced different things. Like I guess one of the camera guys, he got out to the top of the stairs, and he said he started having like a stabbing in his chest. He ended up having to leave because of how uncomfortable he felt. And Lorraine had gone into this room, so the family had also claimed that there were a few rooms where hundreds of flies would just kind of appear out of nowhere.
That's gross.
And in some of these rooms, and one of the rooms, the sewing was used for sewing. When the second Lorraine had walked in there, she had said that she hoped that this was like the closest to hell that she would ever get. And I guess there was also a father there
That is so
who was
extra.
slapped.
Can I just say, that's
Yeah.
such an extra response. Like, this is so bad, and it's okay.
Right. um But they'd also set up, I guess, like a camera on a tripod that was facing multiple open bedroom doors,
Mm-hmm.
and it was set up to take pictures every few minutes. And so there was just like a collection of photos where there was no one there, and then a second later you see an adult male standing in like a doorway talking to somebody, and then he's gone again. But then there was another photo. There's only one of them, and there's like a young boy in that photo, and he's like peeking out from one of the bedrooms. And they were like, there were no children here. It was just all adults. And they they thought that was really strange. Apparently, when they talked to the people that had owned the house or whatever, they were saying that the kids would go into that room to go play. So who knows? Perhaps maybe the kids were just playing with something
It was Jody
in
the
there.
pig. Jody the pig. Also, as a complete aside, the whole they heard weird noises at night, scratching, and then they saw red eyes. Could it possibly just have been a raccoon?
An animal.
A
It's
raccoon.
possible, yeah.
Because if
It
you're
is
not
definitely
prepared to see a
possible.
raccoon, and it's an older house, it's a Dutch colonial house, in a somewhat secluded area, wooded area, there's waterfront. Obviously, animals exist on our earth. Animals are here with us. They are here at the same time. They have a right to space.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so like if I was a raccoon and I was like, sweet, I love this house. Nobody's been here for a long ass time. And then like some family was there like, God damn it, now
Who
I
are
gotta
these people? It's my
like, can you
house.
please get out of my house? Like Raccoon's like, I know, I'm just gonna scare it. These dudes will leave. And then they did. He's like,
Yeah.
confirmed. So you were talking about the Padre. In the book, because there was a book and there have been several movie adaptations of this. Um, it was said like there was the main the main Padre, the main father, showed up, um, and did a house cleansing, and he had felt I think he was like hit or like something, or no, he heard a voice telling him to get out. It
Yeah.
was a man's voice. It was like, get out. He didn't say shit to them. He left. And then like 3 weeks later he called them and he's like, oh, by the way, this was the thing that happened. I'm gonna come back. And then 3 weeks after that he showed up. I was like, all right, let's try this again. Um, at which point the Warrens got involved. But then on the other side of that, the dude who the book character was based on, the real father involved,
Mhm.
his story is wish-washy. Because on one hand he told people like, yeah, I went in there, shit was crazy. But that was after the fact. At the beginning, for a while, he even had I think he even had a lawsuit. I'm not, someone please fact check me because I could for sure be misremembering. But at one point he was like, I never walked in that house. The only time I dealt with these people was on the phone, and that's it. Um and it's weird. But
Mhm.
to just get up and leave all your shit there
Yeah.
in the middle of the night, it was such a bargain price.
Yeah.
Like,
And they had like he had just bought a brand new boat to put in his boathouse and everything.
if I
And they
immigrated
just
to Gunland, the
literally just
raccoons would be the least of my
yeah.
concerns. That's a fact. That's a fact. You gotta watch out for
But I don't know.
everyone.
I still think the whole original no one heard the gunshots, no one reacted to it. That's just so bizarre.
Yeah, and you know what's even funnier? What's even more bizarre? That's a weird thing. So I hate to say funnier because it sounds
Right.
so fucking bad. We're like, yeah, 5 people were murdered. What's funny about it is like, no. Again, these were real people. This is a tragedy that happened. I hate that that happened. And my heart definitely goes out to those. Um, the Lutzes, I think at one point there was a lot of like legal shit going on where they were like, please stop doing that. Like, please stop talking about our life. But on the other
Yeah,
hand,
they
they were
kind of
like
just
also
wanted to
perpetuating it at some point. it was
Yeah.
weird. Like there was a lot of different sides of the
It was
media
like
coverage.
they wanted to be the ones to tell the story and not have someone else like write it out for them.
Yeah.
I think is
And
what it
again
was.
with different book adaptations, different movie adaptations, different little tweaks that are there. Ryan Reynolds being George Lutz, iconic. But also, so after all of this shit went down and they had moving trucks take their stuff out and they sold the house. They're like, no, we're done. We're not coming back. They sell the house. Another family moves in and lived there for like over a decade, during which time they reported absolutely no activity.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, nothing. There is nothing going on here. Not an inkling, not a bad feeling, nothing. And it's really, it kind of makes it cry. Like, it makes you think.
Yeah.
It makes you think, like, okay, so on the one hand, some of the people involved say for sure this happened. The Warrens were like, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
This is the closest I get to
Here's
that's the most
here's
extra thing I've ever heard. What'd she say again? This is the closest thing I get to hell.
Here's a thought. So when you listen to other mediums talking about paranormal experiences and whatnot,
Thank you.
I've found that what seems to be in common with almost all of them is these types of things happen around people who have these gifts, as if and other mediums have said, because I have this gift, I'll get spirits who will come to me because
Yeah.
They pick up that, hey, the door's open, I need to talk to someone. And people with gifts can tend to attract energy. So what if the Lutzes, maybe one of the daughter, maybe she could have
Predisposed.
had a gift, and as a result she ended up like attracting all that, plus on top of the big murder that just happened. That's a lot of energy coming in.
Yeah.
Who's to say that maybe stuff did happen, and then the next people who moved in, maybe no one has those capabilities, and therefore like everything kind of disperses because there's nothing there for them to hang around for.
And there's also the other side of that coin, which is the whole idea that paranormal shit, metaphysical shit, magic protects itself. The human brain blocks out trauma. That is documented full out, and I know that's been documented. Traumatic shit, people will repress that. It is gone. That shit never happened. Their brain does not comprehend it, and in order to save the brain from hurting itself, the brain goes, bet we're gonna push this down, just down, and we're never gonna talk about it ever again. You don't even know what happened.
Right.
And the same kind of concept applies to metaphysical shit. People whose brains can handle it, they will retain that information. That's right. Like the whole concept is like people who can mentally, like their brain is malleable enough. Malleable. It's Play-Doh. No. They're malleable enough that they can make those connections, and that their brain, the chemistry in their brains can retain that without hurting it. That they will remember those paranormal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But people whose brains physically and electronically and chemically cannot process it without hurting themselves, their brain's like, yeah, we're shutting this shit down. You don't remember this? This never happened.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
But it is definitely wild. I wanted to know more about Jody the Pig. Personally, I think that's really cute. Like, I didn't know about Jody the Pig, and he's the real hero of this story. Yeah.
You were gonna stay here forever.
All wild raccoons, all wild gators, all wild turtles. Instant sweetness overload. Exactly. Contracting diabetes would be far more worrisome. Bacon, you're not wrong. Just come to the South. They fry everything. Like, they fry butter. Which is fucking.
Hey, in some places they fry crickets.
Yeah, crickets aren't bad. When I did CAP, we had to eat crickets. Civilian Air Patrol. That was a weird summer. Then I never went back. Because I got distracted and went on to a different hobby. Shut up, you're
But
not the boss of me.
but yeah, though that just the gunshots, I just can't get past that. Like
No, because that's
how
super
did the
weird.
neighbor not even notice? And even let's say the reason why no one in the family responded because maybe let's say they were all drugged, right? They couldn't respond. But
Yeah.
the neighbors should have still heard it. Like you can't muffle that.
No, dude, I live in the
And the
country,
fact
and if
that
I hear
the
a
dog
gunshot,
is
I'm
the
like,
what. Yeah, and then
weird.
it's the dog that woke him up. Like, oh, the dog's barking. What's going on? But they never heard anything. Like, that's like bizarre, unexplainable.
Yeah, and again, I didn't know about the DEA thing. So that is super sus. Like, a cab for sure. Apparently for a while. But if I am watching this place, even if I'm being discreet, and if I am close enough to see someone with a gun and be able to identify that person,
Yeah, like what's going on?
you
What
would
are you
be
doing? What
close
are you up
enough to
to?
hear it.
Right.
And if you're surveilling a place, you've got sound set up, or you should.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have enough
And
to
this
be
was
out
in
there.
the 70s,
Yeah,
so
so even though the 63 wiretap law would still have been in effect, there was an ongoing case. There is a good chance that they did, in fact, have a warrant to be there. If there
a
was a
taxi.
DEA. What?
Bacon cheese said a taxi.
A taxi. Oh,
Is it a cab? Oh yeah, Americans we call it a taxi.
oh no, ACAB is an acronym. All cops are bastards. Am I wrong? No.
No.
But no, it's super. It's it is the gunshot thing is super wild.
Yeah.
If we don't focus on any of the metaphysical stuff, any of the stuff that happened, the fact the murders themselves are incredibly sus.
Oh yeah. Like how does that even happen? I mean, I had a neighbor 2 houses down fire a gun twice at like his girlfriend or his wife or whatever.
Keeping the real estate down.
And
Oh,
like
at a
I don't know if it
person.
was
At a person. Oh shit. That's different.
yeah. Like and it was crazy cuz the first time I heard the gunshot, I had my headphones on and I was playing Call of Duty. Right?
Right.
So
So you were
but
playing a
I
first
heard it.
person shooter.
Exactly. And I heard that. And it was just a handgun, too. It wasn't a shotgun. And I first heard it. I was thinking, was that a gunshot? And I woke up my husband. I'm like, did you hear that? Like he's asleep, right? Did you hear that? And I said, I think it's a gunshot. And as I was telling him that, we heard a second gunshot. He jumped out of bed. We went, we didn't go outside for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But we were just looking out the window like what's going on, and a few minutes later the police arrived and there were at least 10 or 11 of them. There were a lot, and no cars, no lights, nothing. They had parked down the street and around the corner, and they were quietly walking down the street, the sidewalk towards the house because because they didn't want to announce it because it was a domestic abuse.
And they didn't want to
And
potentially make it worse.
they didn't want to alert him or anything. And so I mean that was really creepy. But like I mean if I can hear a pistol when I'm wearing headphones listening to gunshots in a video game, like how does someone not hear 8 or 9 shotgun shots?
Yeah. Although, and I can't. All I can think of is like he goes to his friend's house and he's like, "Yo, my whole family's crazy. Like everybody in my family just got shot, and I'm here not shot. Wild, wild. Who did it? A
Yeah,
shadow
but
dude handed
he
me a gun,
but
and that's all I
he
remember.
tried that was one of the pleas was they were trying to go for demonic possession for that because
because
The
there
kids
had
who
already
didn't.
been a precedent of someone attempting that in the past.
But I mean, yeah, that's just wild.
So, sleeping through gunshots sounds quintessentially American until you live where they're near children and learn to sleep through crying and screaming at 3 a.m. To be fair, shotgun sounds quite similar to loud metal bassline riffs. So in the whole month of July,
I don't
in the whole
sleep
month
through
of July, you
gunshots.
get to play
They
a
wake
cool
up.
game. Is it a firework or a gunshot? Uh,
Oh, you know what though? You can usually tell the difference, especially in pattern. I mean, if they fire at one time, it's kind of hard because you weren't ready for it. But if it's going off repeatedly, you can kind of tell if it's
but
one
yeah.
or the other.
So, did the Amityville art? Is there a demonic? Again, the books, the TV, the television adaptations, the whole movies, all of them. There's a lot of different theories on what caused it, what sort of thing. And another thing about the people who moved in afterwards, because in the movies and in the books, and in some of the attestations, there was a red room that was like blocked off and they didn't know it was there, and then they found it and they're like, oh my god, this is where crazy shit happened. The new owners were like, yeah, so that room's right there and there's no way they didn't fucking see this on their initial walkthrough. It's clearly there, it's not blocked off.
Yeah.
But
it probably was. There probably is some truth to it, but definitely got sensationalized for profit.
Oh, of course, because again, the hustle's there.
Right. I mean, think about it. If something like if you watch like paranormal investigators on YouTube and stuff, um you can almost kind of tell when something maybe potentially legitimately happened versus
Yeah.
something not actually happening, and it's almost like there's not enough stuff to be interesting because of the type of attentions required.
It's
for
like
it.
when they do those ghost hunting
So
shows,
they just got thrown
and they go,
yeah,
"What
so
was
they gotta
that?"
throw
and then
in
it cuts to
extra.
commercial.
Right. So there's probably some stuff going on, but to make it more interesting, they have to like throw in extra shit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I would be interested in general if it just did something one time and that was
yeah,
it.
true
I'd be
crime.
like,
I'm
oh.
just the true crime aspect, and I'm like, I must know more. Then you throw in the metaphysical stuff and all of that, and it's like, huh, that's super weird. I'm still on the fence. I have no idea. I do think, because one of the theories is that an indigenous nation, that the house was built on, like a place where they just disposed of people in their nation who were
Native
mentally
burial
ill,
grounds.
which is super fucking insensitive and fucked up.
Oh yeah.
And like the nation that they're referring to has outright been like very active in media being like, that not only is that shit super fucking offensive, it never happened. Like what you're talking about makes no sense, and that did not happen. So yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to the thing that impacted the murders? That there was a shrouded figure that handed him a gun. Was it
Probably
his
not.
sister in a jacket? We don't know. But could the little kid have met Jody the pig? Who, again,
Oh
I
yeah,
want to know more
probably.
about Jody the pig. Like, I feel like that's not some. I just need to know because that sounds cute as hell. Like, it's just a pig that's like, we're gonna stay here forever. Like, okay, we have friends. I mean, again, it's hard to say definitively. There's no way to have empirical data, but the Warrens definitely profited, even though they did not charge the families. They profited off the movie deals, the book deals, just the fees that they would get from the tours,
Oh yeah.
and just media attention. Bad press is still press, you know. But that's a wild one. So far
Yeah.
we've talked about Annabelle, we've talked about um the Devil Made Me Do It, and this is the Amityville one. They do have a couple of other high profile ones that people
Mm-hmm.
were very into. And actually, because we play Phasmophobia, have you heard of the Enfield Poltergeist? This is one I actually pulled up.
Um, yes and no. I don't know very much about it.
Okay, well, this is one I actually researched because sometimes I know shit. Um, and every time that we play the Edgefield map in Phasmo, and I make the joke
That's
like
what you think of?
it's an Oni with a summoning circle, but like also it's like that's the first thing that I think of. Because this is one that I actually knew about beforehand. Basically, this took place in England, in the UK. Bacon. That's where you live you live across the pond. You know, people live in England. I've heard. But basically, between 77 and 79, this family experienced a poltergeist in their house, in their apartment, I should say. Um, Poltergeist is, a lot of people. It's been, it's the term poltergeist been sensationalized by a movie, a specific movie, which also um was super insensitive to indigenous
They're
nations.
here.
Yeah, super fucked up. But the concept is that it's an entity that throws shit and tries to just like cause disarray and is just I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
word poltergeist, it literally translates to noisy spirit. That's what it means. Noisy spirit. Um Paranormal researchers will refer to a poltergeist. The way their activity works is that it starts out small and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, until people just can't stand it and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which, on the one hand, my brain goes, "Oh, we talked about thought forms earlier. Maybe that's something like that." But also, as a person who hates having other people chill in my house, and I say that like I love people, but also I mentally have to decompress sometimes. Like sometimes I get overwhelmed during the day and I'm like, cool, I need everyone to leave me alone for like 2 hours and then I'm fine. If I was a ghost, if I was a noisy spirit in a place that I'm stuck in this house, and you got a bunch of kids in here, I'm gonna do what it
Oh
takes to
shit.
get you to get me out of this house. Get you out of this house. Like go leave me alone. I get that.
Well, if you think about it, Bacon, they say that energy gathers, and if you've got history of more people in a certain area, likely more stuff is could happen
Oh yeah, I mean
because
you
of
think about hauntings.
because of all the extra energy.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of different quote unquote haunted places or places where people congregate.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Schools,
Like large amounts of
churches,
people.
um, malls, surprisingly malls, shopping malls.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stories out of China
And
and
China's
Asia.
fucked.
I mean,
Bacon.
that's well, just like the Japanese lore. Oh my goodness.
There's a lot, I mean, as creepy as this sound is, but like our existence, the human experience that we have, our existence here and now is made possible and is fueled by dead people. Death. Everything is death related. Everything that happens to you, the things that enable you to exist, is because something else died. That's just a completely side tangent, random thought that's gonna make you feel a little weird, and I'm fine with it. But Enfield Poltergeist. So basically, um, there was a poltergeist. Basically, it was a lot of supernatural activity, weird shit going down. The main people were these two sisters. They were like 12, around 12. One of them was older, but basically, the claims were that the mom had 4 kids and it was a rented home. They would see furniture moving, there were knocking sounds on the walls. that a chair moved side to side. And the woman called the police about this, which is a weird ass reaction. But like, okay, I get it. You got 4 kids. I get it. Like, um, there was a police constable that went out because she called and said that the chair wobbled and slid, but that they couldn't determine how it moved, why it moved. The reports were of disembodied voices, loud noises, which you got 4 kids. Let's just leave that there. Thrown toys, overturned chairs, and that the children were levitating.
Oh, wow.
So it was like 18 months, 2 years, different, whole bunch of people, their neighbors, psychics, parapsychologists, psychic researchers, journalists. It was like 30-some people. They would, come and check the place out, and they would see like heavy furniture moving, just on its own accord, just like chilling. They saw objects being thrown across the room, and some of them actually saw the daughters seeming to levitate several feet off of the ground.
Just regular people showing up to see.
There was a combination of regular people, psychics, parapsychologists, journalists, like people, regular ass people, all the way through like I am a psychic.
Not related to the family kind of thing.
Yeah, like third parties showing up. They also recorded, like they did like the EVP, like recording stuff, where they were hearing they would hear the knocking noises, they'd start to record, and then they would hear a gruff voice. And this was reported on, like, in newspapers and tabloids, like, during the time. This was a thing. This was like a thing that a lot of people were talking about. There was a book written about it. I'm trying to think. There was a lot of different people that did different things about it. I know that it's been kind of debunked, but kind of not. A lot of people think that the older daughter was working on ventriloquism, and that they had done a lot of hoax. They were doing it it was a prank, bro. They have a photo of one of the girls levitating over the bed, which, if you take a photo at the right time and a kid's jumping on the bed, I'm sure it would look like levitation. So there was a lot of like, is this real? Is this not? I guess at one point during an interview with the children, one of them point blank's like, what's it like living in a haunted house? And one of the girls was like, oh, it's not haunted. And the other one was like, shut up. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's super weird.
Yeah. It's so hard to disprove. Just
yeah, I mean, here's the thing that sold it for a lot of people is that in the middle of all of this happening, Ed and Lorraine Warren show up. They walk around the house, they scope out the situation, and they go, yep, this shit's haunted. Thank you. That was their involvement, was they showed up and were like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
This place is for sure haunted.
I mean, think about it. If you could just pick up on stuff and be like, walk in and like, yep, and then just leave.
I mean, it's
sign here.
Yeah, sign just here. Like, can you sign here so I can make a book deal off this? But yeah, something like that, you'd think it would be easily disprovable, but there's still a whole ass side where people are like, no, this shit was real. And I think what led into it being real, the idea that it is real, that lent it credence, was the fact that the Warrens showed up in the midst of all of the chaos, of all these people showing up and trying to debunk it and trying to prove it. That they just walked in and were like, yeah, this place is haunted as shit. Good day. And just confirmed it. And then like, dipped.
Yeah.
And then it continued on for like several more months until suddenly it just stopped. They just stopped talking about it. Oh, bacon rolled words. Da, da, da. It is a stupid distinction for sure. We're not but a blip on a planetary scale on the cosmic scale. No, that is some real stuff. Like if you look at like the history, like the timeline of the universe, our human existence is literally, if you were to do it on a time clock, it's like a second in comparison. Then like the grand scale of everything, you're absolutely right. It's just
Just
a
looking at
little
the
lone electron.
sizes of other
Planets.
of other stars, like, ooh, we're so small.
Which is crazy because I'm fat as shit. Um, adult human has roughly 10 trillion human cells. It is home to over 100 trillion bacterial cells that are essential for us to survive. Gut bacteria, friendly bacteria, aiding our immune system, protecting our skin. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the little bugs. We're not doing that. I will say this though, if you've watched Infinity War, spoilers, when Thanos snaps half of the existence away, half of the living entities away, who's to say that the bug, like the bacterial gut creatures that were alive, that they were from the people that were snapped? Do you imagine the snap happens and suddenly you have the worst case of the shits?
Oh my god.
That's completely aside, has nothing to do with the Warrens. I just wanted to say that. Um,
Oh.
like things that make you go, hmm. But yeah, that's
Things make you go,
so yeah, that was again, that was not so much something that they were famous for having like gone through, but it was famous. It was already a famous case, and them going out is what led people to go
Yeah.
like sudden mass shortage of probiotic
It's
yogurt.
like,
That's true.
it's like, you get psychic mediums weighing in on certain things, and you'll have like almost all of them going, yeah, I feel something here. Yeah, I feel something here. And then no one takes them serious. And then you get one very famous person go, yeah, there's something here. And all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, it must be true. It's like,
Well, I mean, on the other hand of it though, like I understand disbelieving like if a psychic's like, yo, this place is haunted, because the community, and when I say the community at large, I'm referring to people who go out and say, I am a medium, I am a psychic. There is a large percentage of these people that are con artists.
oh yeah,
Like,
totally.
for sure, like cold readings are a thing. A cold reading is when someone is like, I'm a medium, I'm a psychic, and they start talking and they read your reaction to adjust their narrative so you buy into what they're saying. A really good example of that is John Edwards. Do you remember John Edwards? He had a
Yes.
TV show, and he would walk in the room and he'd be like, I'm getting the letter M. And then he'd look around the room and he'd see someone react because they're like, oh my God, I know someone with the name M that starts with an M.
Yeah.
And then he'd like gravitate. He's like, I think it's over here. And he'd start just like rattling off names until he sees someone would have like a reaction. He'd be like, it's you. It's your, I
Yeah.
think it's the message for
See,
you.
that's why, like, when people are very vague like that, it's like, I don't know about that. But every now and then I come across someone who's like very specific, and it's like, yo, how many people are gonna have, this person that did this and did that, and also this and that? Like when it's like oddly specific, it's like, okay, that's very possible.
Well, when you were telling me about how they went into the one dude's house at the very beginning, when we were talking about the ghost who would drive up the road and then drop something in the well, which again, I want to know what's in that well. Someone find out. But don't actually do that. Don't do it. But if you already know, let me know what's in the well. No, and like how Lorraine went in, and was just talking to this dude, my initial thought was like, oh, she was cold reading him. But there's a lot of different like practices that these con artists will use. These different people who are like, I'm a medium, I'm a psychic, I'm gonna do a reading for you, I'm gonna do a seance for you. And when they have private offices, they're like legitimately like, we proved this was a thing, where there were offices that would have like listening devices and security cameras set in place when people were sitting in the lobby and they would be chatting up somebody else. They'd be like, oh, I hope I hear from so and so. So when the psychic, quote unquote, would meet with them, they'd already have that information that they seemed to pull out of nowhere, out of the ethos. And these people would be like, oh, and then they'd be swindled out of all this money. So on the one hand, con artists in this line of business are a huge...
The psychic on the phone?
Call me now for your psych reading, Miss Cleo.
Cleo, yeah.
That was... Whew, we're old. But it was like $4.99 a minute to talk to this lady, pulling some tarot cards and telling you about some psychic shit. I never did it. I was curious too, though. Not because I was like, I need to know, like, she's gonna be amazing. I just wanted to know, like, what kind of bullshit she tried to spin.
See, that's always made me want to get a reading.
It's so interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting because you're like,
what are you gonna figure out if I don't give you anything?
Listen, as the world's greatest bear detective, I can flat out tell you that, like, you can pick up on a lot. Pattern recognition, being able to determine how someone is going to react or how they're going to behave based on previous conversations. Like, if you're calling to book me and I hear that you sound upset, that you're very upset, I'm going to make the deduction that whatever person you're trying to reach was a recent decease, you know? I'm going to make those conclusions, and when I see you, I'm going to confirm or deny that based on your demeanor, and I'm going to go from there. If I was to swindle, you know, I'm not going to do that because I'm an honest person. But a lot of people aren't honest, and that really sucks. But
yeah,
and that's the whole thing, is like, we have these psychics, we have this person who's claiming to be a psychic, who goes out and says, yeah, this shit's for sure haunted. They don't, on the one hand, they don't charge the families involved. But they have a lawyer who was a criminal attorney for another person who tried to use the I didn't kill anyone because a demon made me do it. And they have him proofing these documents, trying to get people to sign away rights to these events, quote unquote. Which they, again, their net worth, Forbes put it at between 12 and 85 million.
Wow.
Like, firstly, that's a huge ass variance. And I think it was a variance because Ed was the lower end and Lorraine was the higher end. Like, she was worth more than him. Which,
yeah, because she's the one that had all the abilities.
Yeah, and Ed was just like,
he was just
I'm here.
In the
I'm
topic.
just here. My wife is a spooky bitch, and I love her. And you know what? I stand a man supporting his wife's spooky activities. Like, but I mean, yeah, it's so weird, and it's hard to determine if they're legit or not, just from that one instance that we know that there are people who claim this to gain money, to get monetary, to get fame, to get fortune, to get accolades, to get recognition on a wide scale. So even if they didn't charge the people involved, they did gain something from it. Also, if you're gonna take haunted relics, please don't put them in your fucking house. Even if it's like a side room, which is Ed's off. Like, don't do that.
Well, I thought it was
leave
more
it where
of
it
a
is.
shed that was on the property.
No, it was legitimately on the back of their house.
Oh.
Like, it was his office.
Nope.
Which is
no thanks.
A whole bunch of no thank you. People always talk about psychic mediums, but what about psychic larges? Facts. We need answers, people. Where are the psychic larges? Internet's going off. I'll see you around, folks. Bye, Bacon. Love you. Have a good night. But yeah, it's hard to, we can't really determine it, because again, we can't sit her down and ask her. It's this point. Unfortunately,
Right.
they did pass. Um, but she was a consultant on all these movies that made out. She had a cameo in the last one of them. It's definitely wild.
Mm-hmm. All I know is if I'll be honest, like if I could turn that kind of ability into a lucrative career, I mean, I totally would.
I mean, again, I'm never gonna knock someone's hustle. Like, shit costs money. Life costs money. I get that. It's gross. Capitalism's gross, but I understand.
Yeah.
Um, and it is a kind of like a determination though. It's like again, I agree with you that even if only one aspect of these cases is legitimate, is true, the facts were for sure sensationalized. They were
Oh yeah.
exaggerated to make money. I mean, we have people who were involved in the book process, in the movie process. Um, People who were tertiarily involved, like lawyers and stuff, making comments like, "Yeah, we were in it to make money. Like, we made this shit up. We changed some facts. We exaggerated shit because we wanted money."
Mm-hmm.
And then you have one of the people who was allegedly under the influence of demonic possession, who flat out was like, "They literally told my family we would make millions." It's definitely, it's
Super,
hard.
super
It's
sketch.
hard. Yeah, it's sketchy. It's hard for me to outright say the Warrens were on the up and up, but it's also hard for me to say that they didn't experience, because I
Yeah.
know from personal experience that spirit is real. Like that is these things can happen. Now, I don't, my worldview does not um buy into demons personally, like how
Right.
they're portrayed in Judeo-Christian religions. I'm That's not how my shit works. It's not how my brain, how my worldview is. Um and I know that they were heavy Catholics. Hey, good morning. I know how to word.
Catholics.
Catholics. That's the word I was looking
Yeah,
for.
just listening to Ed talk about people who are atheist was like
Well,
pretty borderline
also, again,
cringe. I was just like, oh my gosh, dude.
a lot of these high profile cases, you made a very good point. This was early on in our conversation. It was a side point you made. It was a throwaway line, but you made an exceptional observation. Most of these high profile cases that we talked about today, that a lot of people know, happened during that one like section of time where there was like a satanic panic, where
Mm-hmm.
because again, they were based in America, where there was a lot of like, "Oh my god, satanic worship, like ritual sacrifice, demons and
The
this, and
and
protect your
the
children,
funny
be virtuous."
the funny thing is Satanists don't believe in demons or any of that. It's essentially a parody religion, which falls under humanism, and the ones that actually do worship demons, they're devil worshippers or Luciferians. You know, the ones that actually believe in the deity Lucifer.
There's just so
But
many words for
but
things.
but Satanists themselves, like it's even in their tenets that they don't believe in any of that.
I mean,
Which
there
is
is
funny.
definitely something to be said, though. I mean, there was also a lot of political stuff going on at that time, you know,
Yeah.
coming out of the Red Scare stuff, fresh out of when they started, they were fresh out of one war. Like Ed, if I'm not mistaken, was in the Navy, and they got
Yeah,
married.
World War II.
Yeah, they got married when he came back on a survivor's leave because his ship went down. So they were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, you gotta take some time on shore for a little bit while we figure out assignments." And they went and got married, which is beautiful. But also, I mean, the time frame this took place in, and they're from Connecticut, which people call it a part of New England. I don't personally.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. Um, but I mean, you're gonna get like Northerners who are gonna have that same thought. But
I would think if if you go with the belief of energies and stuff like that, I would
yeah,
think if anything, everything over on the East Coast would just be highly active or potentially highly active
oh for sure.
because
But a lot of
a
their
lot of
stuff,
bad stuff happened
yeah, a lot of their
with
early on
them.
cases, a lot of the stuff took that they were finding in their own backyard. I mean, again, just like the story of like, I'm gonna make art. I'm gonna draw this house. I'm gonna draw this landscape, and I'm going to talk to this person and get them to tell me their spooky story because my wife says this house is spooky, and then I'm gonna make a painting and sell it. Like, I'm not gonna knock the hustle. I'm not.
It's pretty creative.
It honestly, it brings a whole new meaning to door-to-door sales. But it is just incredibly wild. They did again these cases we talked about. And I think there's one more I wanted to bring up. I'm really cool and I remember things. It's the Smurl haunting. Yeah, I mean they covered a lot of ground during when they were most active, even just outside of the big cases that a lot of people know.
hmm
Like they investigated hundreds of things. So you would think that if there was someone who knew stuff about it, it would be them because they did the groundwork.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you've already been like pumped up, jazzed up, you're on running on the high of all these high profile things, and you're going to use that platform to talk about things and shape it in your worldview, which again, everybody views their experiences
Differently.
in the lens of their cultural beliefs.
Yeah.
So to them, they are Catholic. They determine how this all happened and they frame it in that frame through the lens of Catholicism, through the
Yeah.
lens of their faith.
This is a demon, where someone who wasn't Catholic would say it's just dark energy.
Yes, it's like, yeah, you guys should shit in your house. Should probably clean that. Yep. Those are some fucking raccoons, my guy. Like, I mean, it's definitely interesting, but with the Smurl haunting, this one actually was in Pennsylvania. Um, and I will say now, I don't remember the thing for trigger warning. I'm trying to remember. Is it? Where the fuck am I typing? You ever do that where like you think you're typing
Is
a
it
place?
TW? Oh yeah, and
It's
it's not. That's not it.
boom, found it. Okay, so sensitive topics. Basically, there is, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this may potentially cover in gloss overviews sexual assault. Just it is gonna get mentioned. It's not gonna get mentioned in detail because I'm not about that. But I do want to just let you know if you don't want to hear anything about it, now is the time to mute. And I no judgment, no shame, and I'll put up the safe when we're done talking about this case. But it was like a over the course of like 15 years from like 1974, this family who lived in Pennsylvania, the claim was that there was a demon that lived in their house. Now this got attention because the Warrens showed up. They had a lot of, and
Like
that,
out of the blue.
if I'm not mistaken, no, this is not the one where they got brought in out of the blue. Like they actually were asked to show up. Now there have been cases where the Warrens just showed up, to just like investigate, and nobody asked them. They're like, "Why the fuck are you here?" But in this case, they were actually asked. So what had happened was when different demonologists, including the Warrens, showed up, they were encouraging, like, hey, this is some supernatural shit. They had clergy members, they had psychologists, even scientific skeptics. Everybody showed up to try to find out what was going on. Now, the depiction of this did get turned into a book. It was also a made-for-TV movie put out by Fox. Basically, the situation is this. They move in, and within a year, they were like, oh, there's a demon here. There was loud noises, bad odors. Something threw their dog into a wall, which is fucked up because that dog did nothing. It shook their mattress. It pushed one of their daughters down a flight of stairs. And it physically and sexually assaulted members of the family on several occasions.
Wow.
There's a lot. This is why I was like, I need to put a trigger warning on this. Because even though we're not going to get into specific details of shit, that's a lot. That's a lot. So like a few years before the possession, the demonic presence or what have you, stopped in 89. In 86, the Warrens showed up. Ed Warren was stated to have been like, so the demon that lives here is very powerful. They attested that it shook mirrors and furniture after they tried to persuade it to leave, by doing the reasonable thing and praying and playing religious music. That was how they asked it to leave.
I don't think it works that way.
No, I mean, if it's not a banger, are they even gonna listen? They'll be like, ugh, hate this one.
I'm gonna stay just to annoy them.
Just to annoy you. Like, this is not my favorite artist, and now I'm being petty. But no. Warren also said that he felt a drop in temperature, and at one point he saw a dark mass form in the home, and that the demon wrote a message in a mirror telling him to get out. They investigated here for months.
Oh, for months?
For months. It wasn't like they showed up and like, this house is cursed. Like, they were there for
like almost like they were genuinely interested in what was going on, maybe.
Yeah. And that in itself, like the fact that they were there for so long, it makes you wonder, like, weird. Warren actually said that he had a bunch of audio tapes containing the knocking and the rapping sounds. Not like spitting bars, but like knocking. Caused by the demon. This is alleged. It says it's alleged, so I feel like nobody actually verified this. Where's the poop? Where's the tape?
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding in my mind, but there was a professor from State University of New York at the Buffalo location. And at the time, he was a chairman of the Committee for Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal. So he flat out stated that the Warrens were not objective, independent, or impartial when they came through, like, searching and like researching this. He was like, this is a hoax. This is just a ghost story. And he was like, a lot of these claims can be dismissed as due to delusions, hallucinations, brain impairment, and that this family needs to submit for psychiatric and
Mm-hmm.
psychological examinations.
Wait,
Which,
is this
to be
is this the
fair,
same professor that was basically saying that people don't? Because there was someone that was critical of them. He was like a professor of some sort, some scholar, and but they also made the claim that no one experiences that, that it's all some kind of psychological thing. But it it begs the question: what about when there's multiple people
It's
not
Paul
associated?
Kurtz is the name of the professor. So I don't know, but I can look it up in a minute. Or if my man in the van, Zombified Potato, wants to look it up, that is a good question. Now there was the father Jack. He had told a reporter that he actually had at one point had to have surgery to remove water from his brain because he had short-term memory loss because he had meningitis as a kid.
Mm.
You are looking up Paul Kurtz. Boom. And we had Mr. Crowley on first season. I think Mr. Crowley on first season, he made a valid point that, again, this is just something I also know, that when the Catholic Church comes out to investigate, and before there would be an exorcism or anything like that, that's one of the first things that they would do is
Just
try to
rule it all out.
determine and rule out, like, oh, cool, so you're just having, like, you're going through some shit, like, or like you're having a psychological thing, or you're having a physical thing. There's something in this environment that's
Mm-hmm.
causing it. You're having an actual illness, and
The
you
church just
need,
being scientific.
yeah, no, and like that in of itself, kind of also in one way makes
Legitimizes it.
it legitimizes it, and it makes those who would just be like, we're gonna fucking exercise this because you got ghosts in your blood, um it's it makes them look kind of worse, because if the Catholic Church goes through these lengths to rule this stuff out, and your first response is to jump and say it's a demon,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of delegitimizes you. But I mean, people who buy into that wholeheartedly, immediately, who will immediately just go on the word of these people who have investigated demons, at first glance, to just be like, yeah, it's got to be a demon because you agree with me, right? Right. Um, but really, a lot of people who are in traumatic experiences, who are dealing and processing trauma, who have psychological issues,
Mm-hmm.
um, if they already have that belief that, like, demons are real and I am susceptible, it is, like you
See,
said,
I
energy attracting it. Whether or not it's actually happening to them, that is going to be their
right.
perception.
I
Um,
think there's a lot, like a huge gray area with everything in life, including this, where I mean, you can get people who might be able to feel or see things, and they could be skeptics themselves, and the type that would be like, okay, I saw something, well, let's rule out what I saw, like, could it be this, could it be that, versus people who maybe have the same abilities, but they're not skeptics at all. They're just immediately like, oh, I saw something without a doubt, 100%, and
even if you
so
are
like you've
even if you have a strong sense and capability with any of the clairs, or you have those types of gifts, good practice would dictate that you should approach everything a little skeptical,
right,
because people lie, and sometimes people don't fully understand what they're experiencing. So it's a disservice to put them through the trauma of trying to solve everything with exorcism,
right,
when at the end of the day, and Mr. Crowley said this best. This is one of the reasons he also uses that same approach in his services. He's like, I'm not gonna do that because, yeah, there's a placebo effect. If I do an
right.
exorcism without ruling out this other stuff, sure, they're gonna feel better now. But in 2 or 3 months, if it takes that long, it's gonna hurl back at them. And they're gonna go, it's gonna be like an endless cycle of me coming out when they just need like medical treatment. And it's definitely weird. In this case, I mean, the Roman Catholic Church specifically spoke on this. A spokesperson from the diocese in Scranton basically was like, yeah, we're not really sure what's causing this. I mean, there are definitely other explanations that it's not a demon. The house was blessed by several different priests. Each of these priests reported there was no harmful activity while on the property. The mother, or Janet, the wife, she claimed that an unidentified priest had performed 3 unsuccessful exorcisms, and that the demon avoided the rites by moving between the double block home. So, like, they'd try to exorcise, and it would be like, nope! And they would change ghost rooms. And,
Not a Goryo.
it's not a Goryo. Phasmo jokes. We love to see it. But no, I mean, so the fact that the diocese spent 2 nights specifically in the house trying to figure out, all right, we're sick of sending people out here for no damn reason. Like, we're gonna sit here for 2 days. We're gonna figure it out. And both, like, the dudes who were there were like, nothing happened. Nothing happened while we were here. And if it was as strong as people are claiming, you would think
something
would happen. Even if it's a small thing, you would think something would happen.
Like a door opening or something.
A Raggedy Ann doll standing on its little button feet. No, still can't get over that. But no, after the Warrens were there, the homeowners told the press they were sick of being bombarded. They were done. They wanted to be left alone. But then they co-authored a book about their experience with the Warrens, like months later. Yeah, and
well, I mean, if everything calms down and someone's dangling a lot of money over your head,
yeah,
and you could use it.
I mean, there's definitely, I think we're safe, because it doesn't look like there was any other information outside of that about the mind caps. Why mind caps? Did I do this to me? But yeah, I mean, with this, the fact that they experienced this for 15 years, that they had so many different, the fact that the Roman Catholic Church weighed in and they sent several people, to investigate, and from their stance, from their spokesperson specifically, that they couldn't find any activity. They couldn't determine why the family was experiencing, why they were saying they were experiencing this. What could have caused them to lead them to believe they were having these experiences? They couldn't pinpoint it. I mean, the husband had medical stuff. He had water on the brain from meningitis as a kid. I'm not a brain surgeon. I don't know nothing about brains. But I feel like if you got if you had to have surgery to correct it because you were having memory loss,
causing it.
Yeah,
like false memories.
Exactly. I mean, there was a different pastor from a completely different, sect of Christianity who went out, and, did some prayers with them, which was, again, very nice. You love to see when a community tries to help. I love to see it. They said after some, really intense, prayer sessions, that the family said that things were going back to normal. The following year, they were still hearing knocking, and they were seeing stuff, but it wasn't as bad as it had been.
I mean, to be fair, my house was built in the 70s, and it creaks and makes noises all the time. Like, at night, it's like as the building settles, you know, it'll sound like something just hit the front door. And in fact, the first time we were living here, just hearing all the little creaks and stuff was kind of like, oh.
Do
But
you hum?
over time, it's like, oh, it's just the building settling, you know.
That's why I loved that show, Ghost Hunters, because it literally was a plumber and a general contractor. And they're like, so your house is not actually messed up, but like you needed some basic home repairs. We got that taken care of for you. Like, I love those dudes. They were so funny.
Or like my water heater's on the other side of this wall right here, so it'll sound like something's knocking on the wall.
Yeah. And it's like, oh man, you just need a regulator for that. $12. That's all it cost. It went to Lowe's Hardware. I got it taken care of. No, I mean, the the family moved out in '88. Like, they didn't stay in the house. They're like, yeah, calm down, and then they moved out. Probably because they had sold book rights. They had sold a book.
Mm-hmm.
And a few years later, that made for TV movie came out. Made for TV movie. I know how to word. But they got, Fox was involved, so there was money going around. And yeah, I mean, the new owner, again, she came in, she bought the home a year later, and she told reporters, because reporters were like, yo, a new person's here. What's it
Is
like
anything
living in
happening?
a haunted house? And she was like, I literally have never experienced anything weird here. There is nothing supernatural here. She's like, I have not experienced anything. And that's not, again, with the Amityville, we saw the same thing with the Amityville case, where
Yeah.
the new owners were like, there is nothing weird here. And we did talk about, well, maybe it's because their brains couldn't handle and process it. Maybe they couldn't
Right.
recognize it. Maybe they
Or
weren't attracting that.
or like I was saying earlier, maybe when people do have those gifts, they do bring in like attract energy because it's attractive. Like, oh, there's like a portal to the other world, you know?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, nothing's going to bother you because there's not a wouldn't matter. It'd be a waste of energy. And so I mean, maybe there's something to that too.
For sure. I mean, here's a couple other, I'm going to spitball some theories real quick. So, is the house haunted or are the people haunted? Because here's the thing, let's look at Amityville. The Lutzes, they left. Like, they left that night. They were like, peace.
Mm-hmm.
There were some reports that the Lutzes were still experiencing stuff
Oh yeah, after
while
they left.
at the mother-in-law's house.
Um, that's that. Well, that kind of goes with what I was saying. Was if you've got a high concentration of energy, and you've got someone who can perceive that, it's going to attract. You know, and if the little girl was able to see and talk to stuff, maybe she was the gateway. Maybe she was what was actually attracting things to that family.
And
And because they landed in that house where 6 people had just been murdered the year before,
that it was already thick with that
even
energy.
yeah, even if it's not spirit energy, you're still going to have residual
That
energy from it
negative
because it was
from that experience, from that
traumatic.
trauma.
Right.
Exactly.
And if the little girl has those capabilities, it's just going to kind of open that up a little bit. It's like, like you could have a magnet and you might not have lead, you're not going to see it, but you stick it over a pile of lead and all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah. So this is going to seem like a tangent. I'm going to make a point, I swear. So humans are bioluminescent. Like, that is like a scientific fact. It's been proven.
Mm-hmm.
It's very faint, but it's there. There are a lot of people in the metaphysical community who
Auras?
will say point blank, like, hey, children with these types of gifts, with these innate abilities, they shine on like the level that spirit is. They shine bright. They are attractive because they have this energy about them that spirit finds attractive, whether that's
Yeah.
positive, negative, or what have you.
Right.
It's like when you have a big
It's like
light
a
outside and
beacon.
moths come to it.
They're just a
Like,
beacon.
exactly. So if we go on like your thing, okay, it's the daughter that would have been in that situation. The little beacon who hung out with Jody the pig, love him. He is the unsung hero. Hung out with Jody the pig, and then all this other stuff was like shiny light, and just went
Right.
there. And that's why when they
Yeah.
moved initially, that the
They
things
just kind of
followed
followed
them.
along. Right. That makes sense.
I mean, it's definitely a thing because people can have attachments to them specifically. Um, I knew a girl in college. I swear to you, like, I'm not going to go into super detail, but she had an attachment. It was cleansed. It was completely gone. And then she had a completely different attachment 2 weeks later. A completely
wow.
different thing attached to her.
Uh-huh.
And that was cleansed. So by like the fourth or fifth time, the person who was helping was like, yo, it's not where you're living, it's you. And I should have recognized this sooner, but I was just taking it at face value. But like, ain't no way. But it's this house over and over again. It's you. But knowing that helped her kind of prepare and like mentally guard herself and, you know, not become super alarmed, not buy into that fear and perpetuate that energy that fed it.
Right.
In a lot of these cases with the Warrens, it is on the one hand, she was tested for psychic stuff. You know, we don't know how she was tested, but she
Right.
got tested. And I'm not trying to laugh at it, but I'm just like I'm trying to like I'm not an idiot. My mom tested me as a kid. Um she got tested for like psychicness, and she displayed not like, oh wow, she is a crazy psychic, but she displayed more than what an average person would.
Yeah. A bit of intuition.
Yeah. And it's just definitely wild to me. Like,
Have Have you ever watched on the Travel Channel the Dead Files?
no.
It's basically this pair she's a psychic medium, and her partner is a retired uh, criminal investigator for the department of
Ooh.
the police department of New York. And the way they set it up is they get, reports of people saying that there's something going on. So they go out there. He goes first. He interviews the people, everyone in the family, asks questions like, what are you experiencing, that sort of thing. And then what he does is he'll visit like the local, who is it, the local historian, ask questions about the property, what went on. Oftentimes, something traumatic happened on the property or nearby, and he'll get all those details together, right? But he supposedly doesn't ever communicate with the medium. In fact, after he leaves, the crew goes in and covers a lot of times you'll see just black drapes up on the walls, because so that way she can't see anything. So she's basically just walking into the house covered in
Which honestly,
stuff.
that would be the way to approach it from a scientific standpoint.
Right.
Would be to have double blind.
Exactly. And so she'll go in, and it's just her and the guy holding the camera, and she'll like talk about things that she feels. She talks about things that she sees or hears, and it can get really descriptive. And sometimes, obviously you could be a skeptic and say they're interviewing the family and they're just using all that information and she's just going to regurgitate it. But if you're not on everything is skeptical, a lot of the details she talks about is directly related to things that the family's experiencing. She has supposedly no idea who lives in the house, she's just meant to go in blind and just talk about what she feels. And so she'll pick up on people within, like, individuals. And um I would say probably 8 out of 10 times uh she ends up finding that someone within, like, those families are, like, have medium tendencies, whether they know it or not. Like, so some of these people, like, she says, yeah, I'm sensing a medium energy. One of you has that ability. And they're all like, I don't. And sometimes people will actually go, oh my God, yes, I feel things. And other times people are like, I don't think so. But she's like, but you're unaware of it. Like, but she'll come out and say it before they can react. She'll say, like, I have someone who can feel things, but they're unaware of it, and you're bringing something in because you're attracting spirits or you're attracting energies. And yeah, and it's just really enjoyable to watch.
Huh. I will have to check that out because I love investigations. And
Mm-hmm.
also just like
Yeah.
I enjoy like history stuff. I enjoy little mysteries. I
Oh
enjoy
yeah,
it. Obviously, we're here, right?
the little historical facts. There was a episode I watched the other night, was really fascinating. So she talked about this spirit, which ended up being the guy that had previously owned the building. He was like the first owner of the building. He's the one that built it. He was there and causing problems. But she's like, but there's another thing that we have to address. And she says, unfortunately, she says, basically, she says, tells them, I can't really help you because it's alien. And they looked at her like, what? She says, I've never experienced this before, but the being is an alien. He's not from this planet. He's saying he's from this distant place, but they're capable of basically opening portals where they can travel. And
Yo, what
she
the
just
fuck?
goes, yeah, and she's saying, like, basically, she says, they have abducted you on a few occasions and done stuff to learn. And she says, there is nothing you can do. And she says, normally I would say you need to hire a medium or a shaman or a priest, like, she'll go through, like, the different types depending on the spirits or energies. But
Yeah.
she, with this family, she's just flat out like, there is nothing that can happen. He will follow you wherever you go. I suggest you just stay here. And she says, we're gonna set you up with a group of support people in place, like therapists, because you're gonna need it, basically.
God
And
damn.
she just straight up, there's like nothing I can do or anyone can do. You're screwed, basically, is what she told this woman.
Oh my god. I love it.
Yeah.
But also that's you know, here's the thing. That that's wild. That's wild. Um it kind of leads into that reminds me of like the whole like star seed children or like star
Mm-hmm.
children or what is they called?
Starseed
There's another
children
name
or
for it and I can't
star
remember.
children,
Yeah,
seed
but there's like
children.
a
I don't
name
know.
my mom used to say what it was. And it's gone. But basically, of course, I think we've talked about aliens in past episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Um Jotun's actually a really good person to talk through like the cycle of like, are aliens real? Are they not real? Because he does like he plays straight man when you're like, but this is crazy. But he also can flip it around. He's a good dude. Can't wait for his episode. But okay, so if we look at what Bacon said earlier, that we are just a blip in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
If we're looking at just sheer statistics, at sheer probability, there's no way we're the only intelligent life form
Oh
out
yeah,
there.
there's
And if
definitely
we and if
other
we are
intelligent
and if
beings.
we're buying into, if we are suspending our disbelief and saying psychics are real, this energy, being able to determine it, being able to be a portal, being able to attract this energy, being able to remote view, do all this other crazy shit. If we can say that that's real for us as humans, we have to then assume that probability, statistically,
Mhm.
other things that exist out there, other intelligent life forms, are capable of these same, or are, there is a possibility that they are also capable of that, if not more.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
that
like
is that what
if
she said
you
is like, okay,
if you
well,
believe in
damn.
aliens,
Yeah.
um, well the Greys are a species, but there's multiple races of Greys, I believe. But they say that the majority of them are telepathic, and that they don't talk. They use their minds to talk to you telepathically.
That's great. Okay, so I'm not like super familiar with aliens. Um so the Greys are like the
They're the most common ones because they're the ones that are closest to us, so they study us.
ah.
They're the most they are the most common, and usually when someone
So like
talks about being
physically
abducted, they're the
physically
ones
like
that
in
people
space,
describe.
they're the closest to us.
Right, yes.
So they're like our neighbors.
Right, yeah.
Nosy neighbors.
Nosy. Well, I mean, look at us. If we were to find intelligent life on another planet and we were capable of visiting it, you know darn well we would be over there watching them.
For sure.
What are these
And some dick
creatures
would
doing?
take their shit and put it in a museum. Is real. That's wild. I'm gonna have to check that out because that's definitely crazy.
Also, that that TikTok medium I had sent you. I don't know if you ever see his stuff, but someone flat out asked him if he picks up on aliens, and he said that he does, but he won't talk about it because it's
You
just
talking about the muddy water guy?
no. The High Seer, the Hawaiian High Seer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he said that he says, yeah, I do pick up on alien every now and then. He says, but I'm not gonna go into detail because basically he's alluding to it would just be so far out there that most people wouldn't be able to comprehend it.
I mean, yeah,
But
and
he's like, definitely it's different.
even if it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, even if he did explain it, even if he did show it, people's brains will interpret that. And if it is something that their
Yeah.
brain is able to process safely, they'll retain it. But if it's not, then they're going to be like, boop, 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 like Windows 95 shutting down sound. Exactly. Which is me on a daily basis. But also, like, that's a real thing. So it makes no sense to try to traumatize people
Right.
if they're not ready to receive that knowledge. I get that. I do. We were talking about the Warrens. but yeah, that is wild.
I think it's
So
all fascinating.
it
But
is.
I'm a super skeptic just because I'm like I need evidence, I need proof and stuff, but at the same time there's just some things that like you get a vibe on it and it's just like, maybe.
No, for sure. I mean, and it is hard because again, there's not empirical data that can be like, this is what this looks like because we tested it in a lab and got the same
Right.
results. Like, these are going to be subjective experiences. And again, those experiences, how people are going to interpret them is going to be
Exactly.
framed through their cultural lens.
Right. So
Um,
like some people will see it as energies, some people will see it as demons
yeah.
or angels.
Zombie makes the joke every time we go into, at least once a time when we like one session out of every game, like gameplay, whenever we do Phasmo, when someone picks up the crucifix, he goes, bold of us to assume that the ghost is Christian. Well,
Exactly.
I'm like, damn. That's pretty deep. I do want to.
Especially if, in the grand scheme of things, Christianity's only been around for so many thousands of years. That's quite an assumption, you know. Think of all the humans who have lived before. They wouldn't know what that is.
Feel like cool. That's some sticks. Thank you.
Yeah, that's neat.
I actually saw a you know, like the text memes where people type out like little story, like 2 sentence stories, and it's like a
Mm-hmm.
meme. So I saw one and it made me giggle, where aliens came to visit Earth, and they were talking about, like, someone was like, "Oh, do you like? I want to talk to you about Jesus," and the alien's like, "Oh yeah, we love Jesus. He visits us every year and brings us chocolate on like this day. Like he's our like he chills like." You know, we give him chocolate, we give him presents. Like, it's a really fun time every time he pops by. And he comes by pretty often. And they're like, pretty often? He hasn't been here for 2,000 years. And they're like, why? Like, this is what we do. Like, we give him presents. What'd you guys do last time? And then they, like, see,
They killed him.
then they see a Christmas, like, Jesus, oh my God. And then they leave. Which, like,
Oh my gosh.
I'm not saying either, I'm not going to delve into that further, but it made me giggle when I read it. I was like, that's kind of funny. But
Totally.
as far as like the subjective thing goes, so the Warrens, again, Ed and Lorraine passed, and their daughter actually has been interviewed about several of the artifacts in the museum while it was still open, and about these experiences, because she grew up with her mom and her dad going through all of these things. Like, she was growing up during their investigations, obviously, because they did this their whole ass life.
Yeah.
So that was what she was raised around. Um, right now, the society that Ed and Lorraine created to investigate the paranormal what have yous is no longer ran by the Warrens. Obviously, it's ran by the son-in-law,
Yeah,
and
Tony Spira,
yeah,
I think.
he's got a website, and I looked at it earlier because I was like, let me check out this website. I'd never heard of this before. And it was kind of weird how it was set up. Because again, I mean, I've dealt with other paranormal groups before. Like, I've talked to several of them. I mean, we even had, again, Mr. Crowley was here, and he runs Great State Paranormal. But they had a Patreon, like almost like a Patreon setup, where like you get VIP access to information for what
Mm-hmm.
have you. Then they have the different events and they charge money for it, which, like, okay. But the thing that I found super interesting is that they offer to teach you how to do this for a fee.
To investigate?
Yeah.
That's not that hard. You just buy a bunch of stuff and you go.
I mean, again though, they they probably investigate, they probably have these investigation techniques that they learned from Ed and Lorraine.
Mm,
So it's going to be based on how they investigated.
that's true.
But looking at the website, I was just like, this is. Let me pull it up actually, because there was one phrase on it that really messed me up, Archie. I was like, what? And it didn't make any sense when I read it. Let me do a thing where I'm super cool and I remember exactly where I put that. Um, it is. Am I the problem? But yeah, while I'm using the Dr. Google. If anybody wants to, is there a specific, oh my goodness. She was 92. She was 92 when she went. And she was
Lorraine?
just in. Yeah. That's wild.
You want to hear a funny thing, a total tangent off of the whole
Let's
them
be honest. Yeah.
offering classes.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Ninja, the streamer for Fortnite?
No.
So he's one of the most popular professional streamers. Um, he used to have millions of viewers watching him play Fortnite, and he got pretty big. I mean, he got sponsorships in game, like you can buy. Game developers started making stuff based off of him. You can buy like toys at Target and stuff based off of him. Well, he put out what's called like a master class, and it's about $200 for it. And it was supposed to teach people how to become a streamer like him. But he literally, in his episodes and his little online classes, basically told people that there were free tutorials online to learn how to do this and that they should go watch them. And then from there on, all he did was show people how to set up like OBS and where they could go to get logos, like basically all the free information that's already out there, that's already been created by other creators. And he charged people like $200 to basically give them the same information that's already out there.
Wow.
And that just kind of made me think about them giving classes, how like you could easily just go and get that information.
Is his last name Serpa or Sherpa?
Spira, Spera.
Listen, I know how to. Do I not? What is his first name? I thought it was Anthony. Is it Anthony?
Tony?
Okay, Tony. Maybe that's like the tiger. Here we go. That's the website. New England's Paranormal Research Headquarters. For New England Society for Psychic Research. And it's got a scrolling as featured on, and it like rolls through a bunch of different news outlets. It's got a picture of from back in the day, Ed and Lorraine. Let me send you. It's TonySpiro.com.
Oh, it's his own website.
Mm-hmm.
His name.
Yeah. And it's just like very like our story. This is where it messed me up. The second paragraph down. So it goes, for over 50 years, Ed and Lorraine were considered America's preeminent experts on the subject of spirits and demonology. This is what fucked me up. Authorities repeatedly called upon the Warrens to control some of the most profane outbreaks of diabolical phenomena in the country.
Ooh.
I may be full of shit. I may not know what I'm talking about. And again, please fact check me if I'm wrong. Tell me, because then I can learn and be better. But I don't think I ever heard of a case where the cops called them and was like, yo, there's a demon.
Yeah, no.
Like, I can't say for certain it never happened, but I never heard about it. And you'd think if they were repeatedly called upon, that would have been a thing people talked about.
They would have been like the legit like Ghostbusters, and it would have been everywhere.
Is there something strange knocking on your wall? Who are you gonna call? A publisher. That's messed up. But yeah, I just thought that was such a weird way to frame that when I was looking through.
Oh, read the last sentence. right above the about us. In addition to,
In addition to managing the Warrens Museum of Psychic Research, NESPR, which is the acronym, continues to be the authority in conduction paranormal investigation. Do they mean conducting?
I don't know, but either way, he's definitely inserting himself into this.
Yeah, well, I mean, they made him a person to do it at one point, which I don't know. It's super weird. There's a blog, there's different events, there's little case files, but when you click it, there's only like 5 cases listed there, which,
It's weird.
yeah, click case files and you get, oh, sorry, 10. There's 10 cases there. Couple of them are cemeteries. The haunting in Connecticut's listed here. Oh, that was the thing. The haunting in Connecticut. So the whole thing about that is the family didn't ask the Warrens to show up. That's the situation where they just showed up. And the family
Oh
was like, the
wow.
fuck are you doing? And they're like, we're going to make a movie about this. We're going to make a book about this. But yeah, there's a couple of them like that, but that was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. And they're like little dockets or whatever. And then there's also a place where like you can become a member and pay whatever amount of money. And then I guess you can look at all of the other files. But this is like the taste. This is the free bit. Which it
Yeah.
looks like if I'm gonna click something, I'm gonna click one that we already talked about. Yeah, this is we did more. You can find more information about this on Wikipedia than by clicking this little file.
Oh, did you see their payment structure?
Um,
So you have $3 a month and you have $5 a month, and then it jumps up to $25 a month. But what you get for $25 a month is your name in the credits and a personalized thank you video. That's it.
how many times do I get the personalized thank you video? Like, is this a monthly thing where they're like, hey, what's up, girl? We want to thank you for being spooky. Then that'd be a
It's
thing.
probably just a one-time video. They get a little
Okay.
piece of paper. What's their name? Bunny? Okay. Hey, thank you, Bunny, for
Thank you, looks at cue card, Bunny Bear.
being a VIP supporter.
I will say this. The fact that the family still has family involvement in it, whether or not whether or not they were just like exceptional con artists, whether or not it was real events, whether or not it wasn't a mix of the two, where they highly exact, just where I'm kind of landing, where like, sure, some of it happened, but also things were definitely exaggerated, especially considering there was so much Buddy in the mix. At the end of the day, it's definitely interesting. The Warrens have been at the center of publicized demonic possession, and crazy haunting stuff, whether they inserted themselves personally or they were asked to be there. They have been in the public eye for this for so long that their name is almost synonymous with it.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely interesting to take a look at some of these and to kind of go through and think through it. But yeah, who knows? Maybe they're gonna have an Annabelle 7. Annabelle goes to Disneyland. Who knows? it's
I think they were like also just like the first to really hop on this train and get the choo choo going.
yeah. Pioneers is the word I want to say. But I
Because
mean,
prior to that, there wasn't really a lot of like, not to this extent, type of investigative work. It was, legends and tales and
yeah, folklore,
yeah,
urban legends. I tell a story to you, you tell a story to your kids, they tell a story to their kids.
right.
And
And they were the
then,
ones that were like, "Ooh, wait, we can make money from this if we document and you know
yeah, because
tell
I mean,
news outlets, get the media involved and
ghosts, scary things that go bump in the night, those are a part of human culture. no matter how far back you go, that's a
Mm-hmm.
thing that everyone at some
And
point, that every culture
she's like,
acknowledges and experiences. Maybe not on the
yeah,
individual level, but culturally, almost every, like, it's a thing. It's been around for a very long time. And especially with technology changing so rapidly during that time frame. And then again, the push for, because if I'm not mistaken, during that whole time is around the time they started cracking down on fantasy games too. Um,
Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah, which it's neither here nor there. But just like the whole, like, it's the satanic panic. I'm gonna use that term. I love that term. Um, I like that so much. But like, yeah, like that whole panic thing that was happening, kind of capitalizing on that, using that to kind of do their own thing. It's definitely wild. It's interesting. And at the end of the day, does it even matter if they were really as extreme as that or not? They brought about change in that whole, they created a whole science, they, by researching it, by doing this openly, by calling media attention to it and doing this, they had a direct hand in shaping what today is modern investigation styles.
Oh yeah.
Both in, like, this is how you can do it, and by showing examples of, like, you should not do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't just walk in a house and go, yep, shit's haunted, have a nice day. It's definitely wild. It's definitely, this was a really good topic. Thank you, Archie. Final thoughts. Do you have anything else on the Warrens you want to talk about?
Um, Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay. Well, we did a thing. We talked about the Warrens. We talked about several of their cases. Definitely still creeped out by dolls. And that will never change. That
And the
will.
unexplained murder of the family,
Yeah,
that
that
just all on its own is
by
bizarre.
itself, that is its own thing. Um, God, we gotta do a crime podcast. No, this is this is what it's really coming down to. But yeah, I really can't thank you enough for bringing this as an idea. I'm super excited about. I do want to switch focus though, since we're out of high profile cases. I do want to switch focus though, because I know you were talking earlier about wanting to get back into the swing of things with uh your streaming stuff. I know we kind of like
Yeah.
everybody I feel like almost everybody in the Shadow Guild was like, I need a break. And like we all just
I
like
feel that we
collectively
all just kind of
decide,
took a
we're like,
massive hiatus.
we're all just like collectively, it's summer. Good night. So yeah, I'm pumped about that. Um I know you also again have the TikTok thing, which consists, I know you got TikTok, you've got your YouTube channel, um, which is, a lot of it's again centered around your gaming stuff, and you
Yeah.
play a lot of you. I would refer to you as a variety streamer, with the I said emphasis. The fuck, um, with an emphasis on first-person shooter and spooky shit.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a weird combination.
I actually kind of dig it. I kind of dig it. Um, I know that you've been doing. We were doing Phasmo for a hard minute. Um, I know you and Innocent have been playing
Ghost Watchers.
Ghost Watchers, which is still, is it still early access?
I think so, yeah. I wanted to stream it, but I don't know if my computer can handle it. Doing both.
Yeah. Some of,
Forewarned, we need to play that again.
yes, I need to. There's so many games that I need to play. Just like
I did
as a
buy the Cult
collective.
of the Lamb. I have yet to play that. I
Oh
wanted
my
to play that and have. I wanted you and your husband and everyone from the Shadow Guild to like be a part of that, so I can make you guys part of my cult.
This is the best plug after the end Lorraine Warren. Yes, Absolutely. I am looking forward to that. I'll get
In
little
fact,
GGs for like a headband.
I watched one of my other friends who was streaming it, and I joined her cult. And what ended up happening, so as soon as I joined the cult, I was like immediately sick. I was the only one who was sick, so she put me on bed rest. But then the entire cult, all of her followers fucking died. They all died within like 5 minutes. And
Oh
I
my
was the only
god.
one alive. And then once they all died, I became healthy again. And everyone started accusing me, like, what the hell just happened? How are you? Like, you show up sick, we're all fine, then we all die, and now you're fine, and the only one in the whole cult. Like, it was so bizarre. And
That is so weird.
everyone was throwing all kinds of, like,
Did
how did this
did you
happen?
respect your 6 feet?
Well, I was not wearing a mask, so
Damn it,
there's
Archie.
that. So,
This is why we have protocol. No, I'm pumped. Yes, do that. That is a thing. And I know. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Yes, I want to do that. Tell me when you're gonna do that, so that way, because
all right.
also, people on the internet watching this, follow Archie on Twitch so you can, when this happens, join the cult. We're here for the cult stuff.
I'll try not to sacrifice you all.
No promises, no promises. But oh man, and I know you've been doing some art stuff.
Oh, my t-shirts?
Yeah.
Or the AI generated stuff.
I know you've been doing a lot. You always do a lot of art stuff because you're like really talented at art stuff. Like,
I
no,
try to, if I have the motivation.
I mean, you made me this beautiful. Why am I dumb? Am I not knowing how to click things? Hold on, I'm having a moment. You ever just try to click something and then you're an idiot? You made me this cute little street smarts. And I love it so much.
Oh yeah. And this one too.
That's right! Oh my god, you made my raid emote and I completely forgot and it's beautiful! If you haven't seen it, you guys are crazy. Look at it. A little axe, everything. Oh my god, it's beautiful.
He looks crazy. A crazy bunny bear.
Cause it's time for a raid! Yeah, that's why I was excited. Oh my god. Yeah, so Archie, you've been doing, I know you've been messing around with messing around. You've been doing some AI image stuff. I know you've been doing that. Which, the little, like, having the little AI, like, pull up images based on words is wild in itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely wild.
They're beautiful.
And they're getting good, too.
It's almost like they're learning.
Oh.
Now listen, if we go through a heat wave, sure it might be global warming, or it could be that the machines are taking over. What was that movie where the truck... You know what I'm talking about? Like where the truck and the electronics was trying to kill everybody?
The truck?
Yeah, what the fuck was that movie?
I'm not sure. I mean, well, we also have Terminators, and we have The Matrix, and...
No, this one's, what was that movie? That's gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna remember it. Not Transformers, no.
No, Transformers are aliens.
They were in a truck stop. The trucks were surrounding the building. It was hot, and the technology was trying to kill people. And I remember it had like a green, like sketchy goblin face on one of the front of the trucks. And I want to say Kurt Russell was in it, but I can't be certain. And it's gonna drive me crazy.
I know what
you know what I'm talking about, but like I can't
yeah,
remember the name.
It was from like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, the golden age. No, but yeah, that AI any day now. But yeah, you've also been working on some merch too, if I'm not mistaken. Or am I mistaken?
No. Well, not merch for me, but just like gaming in general. I'm realizing it's really hard to create stuff in that genre simply because you would almost need to have a license for everything. So the stuff I have is very non-licensed. Like I don't put characters on stuff, so. But
That's fair.
what's been selling the most though is a T-shirt that basically it's just some big letters. It says that like NPC, and then below it says like press X to interact.
I love that. Oh my god.
I sell a couple of those a month.
I mean, I know you do a lot of, again, I know you do the emotes thing, and it's phenomenal. Just, you should do more art streams.
I do. I need to.
It's so funny because you're randomly like, I'm gonna do an art stream. There's like, what? You're like, yeah, I've decided to stream and I'm just gonna draw.
It's like every day of my life, like, because motivation's like a real struggle for me. So if I have any motivation to do something, I'm just gonna I'm gonna do it. Just like the other day, I had randomly motivated to clean up some stuff around the house, so I cleaned the carpets and I started all the laundry.
No,
I just overdid it. I
just
capitalize on it.
That's for real a thing though, because I know I personally also have this struggle where if I am motivated, if I don't stand up and do it right that moment, it's not gonna happen.
Right? And then I usually end up overdoing it because like my husband's like he tells me, he's like, oh, you've done enough, don't do any more. I'm like, no, if I don't take advantage of this, I'm not gonna want to do nothing for the next week.
Zombie being like, why are you manic cleaning the sink right now? Because I need to. And he's like, that's really, I'm like, fine details. Like, I am that cleaner person that when I clean, I'm like, I'm gonna clean every crevice. I actually,
right?
That's the thing I need to motivate myself to do later today, is I got one of those brushes that it's like the power brush where it's like an electrical thing.
Yeah.
So it like super scrubs. Because there's one countertop where like over the course of age it looks like discolored, and I'm like, nah, I don't believe that. So I'm gonna power brush this countertop. So one of two things will happen: either I will get it super clean, or like I will fuck it up, and we're gonna find out. It's gonna be fine.
It's gonna depend on the material, I suppose.
I don't know what's on it. Yeah, being super productive one day and then having to take 2 weeks to recover. Straight facts. I think that's what happened with the streaming thing with the Shadow Guild, is that we were all like, all of a sudden, like, because it was such an urgent thing to do the fundraising, to do the charity event, that we all just came together and were like, yeah, we're gonna go hard on this.
Probably.
And then we all went super hard. We hit our goal and it was like, yeah. And everyone's like, all right, I'm gonna nap for 2 weeks. Good night. I know I did like two or three, I want to say, slots. Because I picked up one.
Like twice afterwards, and then that was it.
Yeah. And I was like, "Ooh, this is too much." And I was like, "I need a nap before I start talking about spooky stuff." That explains my hiatus. Everyone in the Shadow Guild had that hiatus, like the same one.
Yeah.
We're just kind of like slowly filtering back in. But no, I had a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
See, and you were nervous for nothing.
I'm nervous for everything.
See, but now you know. There's no need to be nervous.
We should talk about serial killers next time.
I want to plug this now.
We could do a whole true crime.
For sure. That is absolutely a thing. I want to plug this now because you and Innocent told me about this, and I just need to speak it into reality. Everyone, at some point in the future, very like me, at some point in the future, and anytime, eventually, it will get there. There's going to be an Archie, Innocent, and Bunny Spooky Saturday where we discuss a prolific serial killer. Maybe more than one, who knows? Tangential thoughts are a thing. And I'm very excited. And also, I do want to do true crime shit. Yes. Also, yes. The answer is yes. I like crime. I mean, I don't like
Oh
committing
yeah.
crime.
I mean,
Maybe.
right.
Maybe.
Discussing it.
Yeah, me. I've never done a crime in my life. I've done borderline nothing wrong. There's even a jingle about it. But no, yes, I'm very pumped. I'm very pumped to see uh the Cult of Lamb stuff. I'm very pumped about that. I'm excited to see some new art stuff eventually. Everybody, again, please check out Archie's Twitch, but also you should check out her TikTok. You should check out her YouTube. I don't have a link for your YouTube here, but I do have a link to your TikTok, and I feel like they're somewhere.
It's all on my Twitch about.
Yeah. See,
I added all my links.
all you guys have to do. Here's what you do. Here's what you do. Here's what you do. You just check out Archie's Twitch page. It's all there. All the exciting deets. There's some stuff on YouTube. There's some really funny clips, really funny bits on TikTok. I was in some of those clips. I'm just excited. I'm very pumped. And again, I'm super grateful that you took time today. I know with the time difference, it's like always a little weird. So again, I'm just super excited that we got to do this. But yeah, you're definitely, of course, I'm just expecting you eventually to come back. For the serial killer talk. But also, I'm always here for spooky chats. I'm down for it. I'm ready for it. But while you have the floor, is there anything else you want to talk about? Any other upcoming stuff you want people to know about?
Oh man.
No pressure.
I don't know. I don't know. I have been trying to think of. I kind of want to change my brand, but that's just how I am. I change my stuff all the time. So
yeah,
if it looks different a month or two out,
it's an ongoing exciting thing, and I'm here for it. Well, I think
I have nothing else to add.
I think we should just let's go to see who is on the Twitch now. Share some of the love with someone else. It looks like the people I originally planned are not on right now. Well, that's fine. No one has claimed the raid channel point situation. So let's take a look. Who do I have on mine? Oh, I have to. I think I'm crazy, but if I'm not mistaken, it looks like Bree is actually playing at dead of night, and his stream title is Spooky Saturday. I have to raid. I have to. We're gonna do it. I again had a lovely time. Thank you so much, Archie, for hanging out.
Thank you.
I hope everybody has a spooky Saturday, and I for sure am gonna sleep like a baby tonight. After Shelly Go Community Night, obviously.
Woot woot.
All right, well, let's raid Bree. Show Bree some love. But again, very happy. This has been a great day. Oh. All right, say goodbye, internet.
Goodbye.
You guys have fun.
Stay spooky.